everyone! Sunnyfall here again, back on one of our podcast episodes to talk about Star, the last book in our current arc, A Starless Clan. And of course, joining me today, I have a couple of my delightful friends. This is Moonkitti.
Hello!
This is BrightGuardianAkira.
Hello.
And we're going to be going through some of our thoughts on this book. There is also some Warriors news that has come out in the last couple of weeks that we will be going over closer to the end as it relates to this book. But mainly we'll just be going over the contents. Of course, this will contain a lot of spoilers because we'll be discussing Star and also the entirety of A Starless Clan. So if you don't want that, you have been warned. Okay, to start off, we're each just going to give a quick summary of our thoughts before we get into more specifics. And for once, I'm going to start off with that. So I'll just say I really liked this book. And this arc in general, as a whole. There are definitely some things that I have a problem with. There are some things I think could have been done better. But this is unquestionably now my second favorite arc in the series after Omen of the Stars. And I think this book dodged a lot of pitfalls that it could have had and did not. Akira, would you like to go?
Yeah. I definitely prefer this to the ending of last arc, so that's a big positive for me. I think it hit a lot of like the emotional like moments pretty well. I think some of like the logic, like some of like the couple situations in the book were just like didn't make a lot of sense. There were a couple like plot holes that kind of just like, well, why did the character do this? But where it counted, I think it delivered.
Absolutely. And Moon, before we begin.
I think that as a Warrior Cats book, this book is fine. I think that compared to other Warrior Cats books, it could be way worse, like back half of Vision of Shadow stuff. I think A Light in the Mist might have actually been, narratively stronger because more things happened in it than in this book. But as far as a Warrior Cats book, it's fine. But also I can see very clearly that it's made out of scraps and patchwork and, sewn together to be some semblance of an end to an arc, more so than something that would have had any planning go into it.
Makes sense. So as we actually begin, let's start off with what is definitely the bulk of the book's most compelling plotting, which is Frostpaw's section of the story, in regards to both her overall character arc that she's gone through in A Starless Clan, and specifically the focus on her growth and confidence and her conquering of mostly Splashtail and her own insecurities over the leadership.
In the first half of this book, Frostpaw is very strong. I think that in the first half of this book, Frostpaw is really neat. Like, Frostpaw is really fun. She's definitely hitting like a cool conclusion to her overall thing. And then in the second half of the book strips her of any agency that she had previously and makes her into just a living doll who does whatever other people tell her to do.
I disagree, but I'll start off with the fact that, yes, I fully agree that in the first half she was awesome. She was very assertive. She led multiple teams and came up with several of the ideas. She swam herself through the lake to reach WindClan and start up the war on Riverclan to take back ShadowClan and all that. But I also fully and genuinely appreciated her comatose state, primarily for two reasons. One is the stylistic element to it was just very, very cool. I liked how within her dreams, there was a very... So I read Night Whispers recently for Trip Through Time, and it reminded me a lot of the style they use around the end of Flametail's death. Of the slipping in and out of consciousness and starting to act less like themselves as they disconnect from their body a little bit. And for Frostpaw, because she was lapsing in and out of consciousness and being able to see Mothwing healing her, but then seeing Starclan cats and lapsing back and forth between them with almost an ambivalence to that, it really read as danger and death to me in a way that I almost want to say was purposefully unsettling for once. The second part was just, I'm okay with her not ultimately being the one to save herself entirely on her own, because she's been doing that all arc, and the fact that the resolution was people coming back and helping her seems fitting.
So what I found is that for the coma like part of the book, it felt like they were really like stuck. They kind of wrote themselves into a hole by having the Ivy Pools Heart Super Edition take place at the same time, because they wanted to like create that 2-week gap so that, you know, Icewing could like, you know, do her quest and come back before the end of this book. And so I think ultimately like this, when you like see the Frostpaw coma, it's like from like a super fan perspective, it's like, oh, they're only doing this because they had to like create this time gap to make the timeline make sense.
This is what I mean by patchwork. I think that a lot of this book was elements that they needed to have sewn together in ways that I didn't find entirely believable. But my problem with Frostpaw's lack of agency, specifically when she's in the coma, isn't about, you know, if or not the coma is neat or if or not the coma is filler. It's about the fact that Frostpaw doesn't really have anything motivating her. She isn't really motivated to die. She isn't really motivated to live. She doesn't really care about what she should do or what she should be doing. She's very empty as a character while she's in the coma. And that is what makes me call her like someone who's suddenly become a doll. She's lost everything that Frostpaw was, and I understand that they're trying to portray her as being in a depressive state, as being in a, like, I'm so tired, I need to give up, I want to give up. I get that, I understand where they're coming from with that, and I think that they did not portray it properly.
That's fair.
I think the biggest problem was the transition was too fast. Like, she didn't show any signs of, like, this, like, earlier in the book, she didn't show any signs of it when she came back from the quest. Like, she was always, like, super on top of it. She always, like, super, I want to, like, fix Riverclan. I want to take down Splashtail. Like, she's putting herself on the line at the end of, like, Wind by, like, going and investigating Splashtail. And
sorry, go on.
Yeah, and over again, she puts herself on the line, and then suddenly when she's in the coma, she's like, nope, I don't care anymore. It's just, like, it just flips too fast.
That's something I was... sorry.
Sorry. When there's a chapter where her father shows up for the first time in the books, and he comes down to her, and essentially she becomes... She suddenly has now up until this point she has been really like drawn to dying. Like, she's been drawn to giving up, she's been drawn to dying. And then her father comes in, and her father becomes the Lotus Eater. Her father comes in and says, hey, you should die. It'll be great if you die. We'll have fun here. We'll live forever and be happy. And we don't have to care about Riverclan. We'll just be happy and dead for the rest of our lives. It'll be okay. And when her father presents himself as a Lotus Eater to Frostpaw, she doesn't say to herself, oh, that sounds nice, so much as she suddenly regains agency for no reason. And because Tree is calling to her, because Tree, the hero of the clans, Tree, the ultimate main character of every book, whether you like it or not,
of course.
Gathers everyone together who hasn't done anything in this book and says, hey, you guys, we need to call Frostpaw back. And they're like, sure, Tree, I love you, Tree. Tree, you solve all of my problems. And Frostpaw comes back because Tree sings her to life, not really because she chose anything.
I legitimately... So I agree that the execution of it absolutely could have been better, especially if they worked more of the arc they seem to be going for into her alive state. But the ambivalence or disconnect from herself and her previous characterization while she was dead was something I fully attributed to her being in a half-dead state, where she really was being pulled back and forth between these influences more than she was making a choice by herself. The tree thing is still something that keeps coming up and that I keep
This is the second time this arc that Tree has just solved something by existing, you know.
And mostly off screen. But
has the sisters even been in this arc?
Ivy Pool's heart.
Well, Ivy Pool's heart, if you count it.
So,
yeah.
So if you're just reading the arc from start to finish, like when Tree does the singing thing, that's like a callback to Broken Code.
Yeah.
So it's like it doesn't
it's still
like
a callback
like
to the Broken Code.
Yeah. It's a callback to a vision of shadows too, because
it's Yeah.
At least Tree had technically like 2% prominence before in this arc because he was trying to solve the Riverclan ShadowClan disputes off screen a couple books ago, I guess.
He did the same thing. He did the same thing twice. He did it off screen, he solved it, and they're like, yay, Tree, you did it!
It makes me a little less upset than the Riverclan ShadowClan stuff, though. A, because we got one scene of seeing him actually talk to Frostpaw, and it's better than nothing. But B, because this was something that Nightheart had actually brought up before Tree did. The idea that what we really need for Frostpaw to come back is for people to care for Frostpaw the way she's been caring for them for 5 books. And that felt like a more poignant cat to make that realization than it would have been for Tree to say that's what we need and for him to just be right.
Except, technically, Tree also was right.
Yes, but Nightheart said it first, so because it all happened off screen, I can imagine that Nightheart is the one that told that to Tree.
Nightheart has had no... And, we're back from the journey. I don't really need to talk to Frostpaw again.
He thinks about her. That's a different bullet point, but it's better than nothing. I fully expected that he would completely forget about her.
A lot of... Oh, sorry.
Hi. I like Froston's name.
Froston's name is so pretty.
Yeah.
In addition to the symbolic references, it's just a really pretty name to say. I don't feel that way about Whistle Breeze.
Yeah.
It's very chunky in the mouth.
Yeah.
Do you think that Breezepelt sneezed when that happened?
Maybe.
Yeah. The name I was like saying before, it was Whistle Song was the name I wanted.
Ah, that would have been pretty.
I like to speculate, but I feel like the team doesn't really have as many reservations about names as we do, and therefore they're kind of hard to predict.
Yeah, it's about 50% of the time with main characters, their names will be symbolically linked to something, and with background characters, it's maybe about 5%.
Nightheart's name is symbolically linked to the fact that he saw Nightcloud and thought that her name really suited her.
Yeah.
I can't believe he copied it like a kid on the internet, though.
Well, back in the very olden roleplay days, it was very common to just fully steal main characters' prefixes and have a billion crow somethings and hawk somethings and squirrel somethings.
It's a lot less common nowadays, though.
Yeah.
Well, okay. If you I remember when I was a kid, roleplays were very, very strict about names. So there are a lot of names in the books that like actually wouldn't fly in a roleplay when I was a kid. And I remember a roleplay site that I had to apply to join, and I didn't get in because I wasn't literate enough. But they had a list of names that you weren't allowed to use anymore, and on that list were Sparrow and I think the suffix pelt. And that's really funny to me, because it means these kids were overcompensating on normal-sounding names so badly that they were creating a too many EVs problem.
This was not a problem in my roleplay experiences, because I made the roleplay site myself. I didn't bother with anyone else's roleplay. So I got to decide on any names I pleased, and we had multiple, like, lightning storms and cloud streaks, and one person named Deathclaw. We had no rules. There were no rules.
So, that's Splashtail.
Yes, that said... To get slightly back on track, the thing that drove Frostpaw into her coma was, of course, the machinations and furious outburst of one Splashtail Knotstar of Riverclan, whose rule over Riverclan got some extra details and more significant focus in this book, in my opinion, to compensate for what they did not have before. He got some followers inconsistently, and there were more reasons given. He was stealing kits, he was keeping them hostage, as to why people would follow him. How did you take that element of the story?
I don't think they sold it. I think the kits, they didn't seem like they were that trapped. It seemed like they were just in a den, and a lot of Frostpaw wasn't. I mean, Splashtail wasn't even in camp the entire book, so like how he wasn't like making sure they didn't get out. So
Yeah.
I don't really like understand how they just, they're like, oh no, the kits. Oh no, the kits. And the kits are just like, they're just there.
So, I'm just glad they had any reason at all to care or follow Splashtail, and for that, I am going to rationalize the kits, alright? So, they have kits in the camp, and Splashtail is threatening to hurt them if anything happens. A portion of the cats in the clan believe that this is just a threat that he's making to control them, and a portion of the cats in the clan think that he definitely is going to do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
At all times, the kits are being guarded. There isn't a single situation in which the cats have free reign over the kittens. For example, and he has placed people who are exceptionally loyal to him, like, as we learn later, his sister Fog, in front of the kittens, guarding the dens where they're keeping them. And so, while this might not be entirely true the entire way through, I think that a lot of the Riverclan cats, and I am making excuses, I am rationalizing this, I think that a lot of the Riverclan cats are under the assumption that they can't trust Splashtail, but they also can't trust their clanmates. So a lot of them would believe that if they were to dive in and try to save the kittens, that there would be people who would then try to uphold Splashtail's machinations here. So I can rationalize in my head that this is a very unstable situation, and the Riverclan cats can't trust each other as well as can't trust Splashtail.
But then, I don't know, what was it, Sneeze Cloud? But then they go and steal SkyClan kits.
Yeah.
It doesn't even work. They they fail at stealing SkyClan kits.
And then they said, what if we took Nightheart? He's just as good. No, he's not. The entire point of stealing the kits was that the kits can't reasonably fight back even against a single warrior. Nightheart can. But honestly, that part is a nitpick. That one's not my main criticism.
And how did Nightheart not escape?
They explain this as Nightheart was like, he started out fighting just him, but then everybody attacked Nightheart. Like, I think they say that in post later after not showing the scene where Nightheart has to fight. That's so pathetic. I'm sorry, it's so pathetic that doesn't happen. But on the subject of Splashtail, like, I am just so glad that they didn't just make the Riverclan cats turn evil, that instead they had any reason at all that they were acting like this. Because then I can go, okay, then it's reasonable that they immediately turn back because they were being held hostage or whatever. But last book they were literally just, oh, we're evil because we have an evil leader now. Let's stop feeding the elders.
So I agree. I unquestionably believe this to be better than it could be. Last book, especially near the end, I was fully ready to say, this is stupid. None of these cats should be evil. Why are they just going around insulting people? Why are we implying that they're evil now? Because they had no reason to. Splashtail by himself is not super intimidating against an entire clan. But if he has this hostage on the kits, if we can believe that he has these very close followers who have been keeping a guard on the kits, and that the bulk of the Riverclan cats do believe that their clanmates would be willing to hurt the kits if Splashtail ordered it, it provides some justification. However,
this is me making stuff up.
Yeah.
However, even in that circumstance, which I honestly believe is what they were trying to get across, they didn't entirely, but it's what they were trying to get across. But even in that circumstance, the time that they said Splashtail took the kits hostage was just after Hairlight's death, which, if you recall, was at the final chapter of our last book. So I still have the question of why no one was standing up to this when he was having the claws out training sessions and forcing them to stop their hunting patrols so that they could gain more and more power. Like, this is already a warning sign. Someone definitely should have stepped up then, and it's not just Mothwing, Duskfur, and Icewing.
Well, I'm not going to make up anything to justify that. Because I'm making up stuff that justifies having more kit scenes in the books, but I'm not making up stuff that justifies having more fight scenes in the books. I hope you understand.
Yeah, of course. So, like, I appreciate this as a justification significantly more than them going forward without a justification. But I wish they had started this much earlier and showed it much more consistently, because it still doesn't explain away most of the stuff that was happening before this book. The other problem I had was the actual list of followers. When we're first told about it, when Mosspelt goes over with Nightheart the list of followers, and Mosspelt has a connection to Fognose, so she was covering for Fognose and did not include her in the list. Fine. So we'll include Fognose as well. But it was also Breezeheart, Brackenpelt, and Podlight. And that's the only 4 she could name. Well, Podlight is a jerk. In the couple of scenes, he's a jerk. I'm still not sure what happened to Podlight. Did Podlight die?
No, I think everyone forgave him.
They just, in
he's
the
like
last
one of the
scenes
last,
in the book,
he was
they
the
just
last
didn't bring
people
him
fighting
up.
for Splashville.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they forgave him. He forgave him more than the 2 that they exiled.
Yeah, like
I think it's really funny. They have Hawkwing do like wrestling moves on him. like they have a little cage match and everybody just watches and cheers. And Hawkwing's just there, and as usual, Hawkwing's only personality trait is being a little bit too muscular.
Yeah, that's it. So, I wrote down notes about this at the end. Where are they? Oh shoot.
I'm sorry for skipping to the end.
No, it's okay. No, it's my messy notes from when I was reading the book, not the podcast notes. It was Fog. I should search up Exile. That's what I should do. Okay. Yes. So Fognose and Breezeheart were exiled. I don't know why they forgave Podlight, who was staunchly defending Splashtail up until the end and acted as his medicine cat and actively lied to the clans. And I really don't know what the heck happened to Brackenpelt. I'm not sure they ever mentioned that guy again after he was named as one of Splashtail's loyal followers. It's just another one of those cases where...
Is it Brackenpelt a girl?
Oh, hold on.
Sorry, not to hit you with that. It doesn't matter at all. It's Brackenpelt. I just remember because I've had to draw her before.
I didn't even know there was a Brackenpelt.
I think there was another Bracken character. Oh, it was Brackenfoot. I was thinking of Brackenfoot. I'm sorry. Yes, so Brackenpelt is a she-cat. You're absolutely right. I don't know where she went, and I don't know why she was following Splashtail or if she ever showed up again.
Brackenfoot is very dead.
Yeah, Brackenfoot is very deeply, deeply dead. So one problem.
Shout out to the Brackenfoot fans.
One problem is the consistency of those followers. I wish we had learned of their existence earlier and seen them more consistently through the story to justify the kit guarding at least. But also, if there's only 4 of them, and one of them is Podlight, I mean, we can throw in Owlnose too, because he betrayed Splashtail at the last moment. Let's give them the credit and say 5. 5 loyal Splashtail followers. Many of them were at ShadowClan or stealing SkyClan's kits all at once. So who was back guarding the kit? I guess that's Brackenpelt?
Okay, I don't remember,
Yeah.
but consider for a second. The cats in Riverclan themselves don't know who is who. They do not know who is loyal and who isn't. That's made pretty clear by the fact that none of the cats who were trying to convert cats or talk to cats could get anywhere. Not even Nightheart could make a correct assumption, even though Nightheart has some sort of access to the Warrior Cats wiki in his brain, and whenever he needs to know something like Lizard Tail is someone's father, it just taps in.
Of course. So Nightheart did make a correct assumption. Nightheart believed that Fognose has actively been evil in front of him and was supporting Splashtail. She's probably a follower of Splashtail. The only reason he denied that assumption was because Mosspelt was so deeply insistent that Fognose could not possibly be evil ever. Absolutely not.
They should really start monitoring their kids like a search history, I think.
I guess just when I first saw the scene with Fognose and I want to say Sneeze Cloud stealing the kits and then Nightheart, I had already put down a note there of, Fognose appears to be on Splashtail's side here. She's fully on board with it, actively enforcing his laws. She's acting like a follower. And so when it was confirmed that she was a follower, I said, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Good job on you guys. But in that case, it was plainly obvious who Splashtail's follower was. And everyone who hasn't been doing that has been showing significant hesitance or asking if this is okay whenever it comes up. So it feels less believable that Riverclan would just not be able to tell who the actual followers were, unless you're like Moss Pelt and are in substantial denial.
Also, I feel like there's a lot more cat. Like we had with the Icewing group. I feel like after they left, at least one of the cats who was like, if there's any cats that like were absolutely not followers, they could have just ran away at some point, like when Splashtail was like separated from them. Because none of the cats other than like Splashtail were like gonna like murder them. The only like murder was Splashtail on Hairlight.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like at any point when they like Splashtail was out of sight, they could have just ran away, ran off to Wimpland and tattled.
I think Splashtail would either need either a lot more followers or a lot more ambiguity among his followers in order to actually pull off the amount of loyalty he gets.
Maybe they like shouldn't have killed Hairlight. Maybe they should have just like, just had him just replace Hairlight with Berryheart without the killing to make like a more convincing argument why the. But I guess they needed that. They needed that like straw Oh, yeah. It's
they
hard.
do keep
There's just,
bringing
like, a lot of
Hairlight's death up as a big fear factor in addition to the kids.
I keep forgetting that Hairlight died literally the end of last book because we've known about it for like 2 years before it actually happened because of the spoilers. But when it comes to not Berryheart so much as Splashtail's whole thing, I really don't think that Splashtail or Berryheart or basically any element that was actually like plot relevant for these books were what the authors were thinking of when they were writing this one.
Yeah.
And or the last one or the one before that. Like I do not think like I'm pretty sure that they had some sort of vague grand plan for Splashtail and Curlfeather and Berryheart, and whatever that was got lost somewhere either halfway through or before these last two books, and they changed their direction very quickly, pivoted from something.
I think like in the Ivypool Super Edition, that wasn't even like, I think that wasn't even a concept when they started writing the arc.
No.
Because they weren't, because they had the Super Edition pull, so they didn't even know the order they were making the Super Editions in yet. And so,
I don't think that they had conceptions for any of the Super Editions on the pull, except for maybe the Misty Star one.
Yeah. But yeah, I think there was like an article over there. They like, when they first revealed the Super Editions, I think I think it was sometime like in the middle of the arc when they came up with the Ivypool thing. So, meaning that a lot of what happened in this book they didn't even know about at the start.
Absolutely not. But
But in the same article, they also said But in the same article, they also insisted that they have the endings planned out when they start.
Yeah, I don't believe that at all.
For the Broken Code, at least, they said that.
Oh well, okay. If they're talking about the Broken Code, I will believe they had the ending of the Broken Code planned out from the start, but I also believe that they reached that ending a little bit too fast, and then they stretched the end of that ending out to be 2 books.
Yeah. So I think when they say that they have the ending plotted out, it means a different thing from when Vicky said she had the fire scene plotted out, each at the beginning of their arcs.
Well, Vicky had written the fire scene before they even started this third arc.
Because instead of like having a very specific place where I know it needs to end up, it's more, I have a goal I want to reach, and we're going to try and write linearly to get there. Rather than figuring out where any of the midpoints would need to be or how the pacing overall across the arc should go. And I honestly think giving them any time in which to actually plot and pace out a full arc would radically and instantaneously improve the quality of the books. But they don't really do that.
I'm not even sure it's a time issue so much as an organization issue. Here's I think that they could solve pretty much all of Warrior Cat's problems by looking at the first arc and copying it. No. What I mean is, they could if they compartmentalized, right? So they say, okay, here's the problem, and here's the problem that starts in the first book that needs to end in the 6th book, right? That should be the first question. But then I want them to just look at every single individual book in that arc and say, okay, what is the story of just this book, so that you could pick up just this book and get some sort of conclusion there. And that's all I would want. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I want to be able to pick up a book 4, read it from cover to cover, and feel like I got a story out of it.
That would be a large but welcome shift.
I wouldn't care if the overall story arc was weak or whatever, because like that's how it is in Wings of Fire, right? Every single book in Wings of Fire is a worthwhile book on its own, but very often the books won't really add up to much overall. Like they won't, like the arc will just kind of be like the idea of an arc to some extent in Wings of Fire, and the ending is usually kind of weak, but the books themselves, the individual books, are usually very strong because they have their own internal plots, and that's all I want from Warrior Cats, is just some reason to care about the individual books again.
That would be nice, yeah.
Sorry, that was a little bit off track, but I guess the problem with talking about Splashtail is that a lot of the issues with Splashtail in particular are connected to other people, but the one thing that really stands out about him in this book to me is just how cool it is to see Frostpaw tear him to pieces.
That is a different thing that we will get to later, but yes, I agree.
See, that's the problem. We can't talk about Splashtail without talking about how Frostpaw ripped him to shreds.
And we will get there, I promise. But there were a couple more sort of sub-elements we needed to cover in the Splashtail villainy plot. With the first being his co-conspirator, Berryheart, who is apparently sort of morally gray all along. Sort
Not
of?
really.
Yeah, very, very slightly gray.
She's still being naughty even when she's being quote-unquote good. It's just benefiting the Riverclan cats at that point.
She's only morally gray in the sense that Sunbeam has happy memories about her.
She's morally gray in the sense that she doesn't always like stuff Splashtail does.
And they want to really focus in on like I guess like they're doing the same thing with her and Curlfeather, where they want to say there's like two sides to them. They're still like treasured family members even though they're evil.
Yeah.
They tried to damn Curlfeather by making her not care about Frostpaw,
but she
I
literally
don't know, man.
did.
I still like her a lot more than Berryheart.
I mean, in the actual scene that Curlfeather, we're just going over like 3 different sections at once. That's okay. In the actual scene that Curlfeather shared with Frostpaw, I felt substantially more genuine maternal love there, just portrayed in a very evil, controlling way, compared to Berryheart, who seems to have barely given either of her children a second thought. She still mainly cares about ShadowClan and considers them traitors to ShadowClan.
Berryheart to me is on like the same tier as Dawn of the Clan's Tom. We've got a parent who has done the bare minimum as a parent, which is try and not let their child get killed, and that's it.
Yeah.
And otherwise their good deeds can be counted on 0 fingers.
I would be more inclined to call Curlfeather a good mother before I'd call Berryheart a good mother. Just to be clear, neither of these are particularly good mothers.
Well, I'm not going to say that either of them is a good mother. Like, because there's definitely a flaw in both of them that they are bad mothers to some extent. They've done something wrong. But if we're going to say morally gray, like, if we're going to say one of them or the other one is morally gray, it's Curlfeather.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because no matter what, Curlfeather is she's still doing something that she thinks is beneficial for her children.
Yeah. And
Berryheart's reactions and Berryheart's beliefs aren't really steeped in what would help the children whatsoever. It's really just prejudice. It's like Berryheart with fringe whiskers. Fringe Whisker, cough cough, Fringe Whisker hasn't done a single thing. And Berryheart wants her to be ejected from ShadowClan with a cannon. And that would be harmful to Berryheart's son.
Absolutely.
And Berryheart doesn't care about that at all. Curlfeather, I'm pretty sure, okay, this is just me spouting it off, but I am pretty sure that in a hypothetical situation where Frostpaw had said, you know, Mom, I really don't want to be a medicine cat and I'm going to be a warrior instead, Curlfeather would have tried to encourage her not to, but in the end would still, like, accept the choices that her daughter had made if she didn't become a medicine cat, yeah?
Sure.
And
I think she would try to make one of her other kids a medicine cat if she could.
Oh, sure.
It, though.
But assuming it's too late, I think that she would cut her losses and be like, okay, that didn't work out. But with Berryheart, I think there would be resentment for that. Mm-hmm. When Curlfeather, I don't think would have that resentment, just in a character analysis kind of comparison way.
Because notably, right now, when Curlfeather has absolutely nothing to gain from it, she still reaches out to Frostpaw and says, you have become everything that I wanted you to be. You are such a great and powerful cat. Use that power. And it's still a sense of love and connection and pride, where Berryheart does not have that for Sunbeam. She says, this is a person that I realistically should have some connection to and don't want to die, but that's about it. Because she was kind of dead to her as soon as she told her off in ThunderClan.
Mm-hmm. She also dies really, really quickly, like Berryheart.
Yeah.
She just goes, and it's like, wow, that's not a problem anymore, I guess. What is Sunbeam going to do for the rest of the book? And then Sunbeam's like, I don't know. Chapter
8 of 23, I think.
Yeah, I also don't get how Sunbeam Sunbeam was supposed to go and meet up with Nightheart right away, and then she just stays in the camp for a really long time.
She hides in a tree.
Yeah, she's just okay, I'm just
Oh no!
This guy's just watching. It's like, if I could leave, then we don't have a perspective for the scene.
If I don't have a mother anymore, my duty is to become the camera.
I'm more inclined to allow that in Sunbeam's case, because I can at least imagine a thing that isn't there but would make sense, that to an extent, right after her mother's death, she wants to be there to process it with other people who knew her. But it's again, it's not something they ever make explicit. They just have her there and then have her feel the things after.
No, I mean more before Berryheart's death, where
right then, yes.
Like when I forget who saves her. Who saves her? Who pushes her into the tree or something?
Yeah, it ends. Oh shoot! I know exactly.
It wasn't Cinnamon Tail.
No.
But it was someone. See, this is why I should have downloaded a PDF.
This is why I get them on Kindle. Control F is magical. Tree appears many times in this book. That is not as helpful as a search word.
It's at the end of one of the chapters.
I know it's before chapter 8. That helps.
It's around chapter 4, chapter 5.
We're talking about before or after Berryheart dies?
Before. So this is the one that causes Sunbeam to stay as a camera in ShadowClan to watch Berryheart's death, where Nightheart goes off to find ThunderClan at first for backup, and it turns into finding SkyClan kits and being captured and blah-de-blah.
Okay, I see.
Wait, was it Tawny Pelt?
It might have been Tawny Pelt.
Yeah, it says. Oh yeah, I just think it was Tawny Pelt at the end of chapter 5.
Wait, it says go she hissed. Now who's the she? Let's see. Cloverfoot? Oh, let me see.
No, it was Tawny Pelt. Pretty sure.
Yes. Okay. Sunbeam blinked back at her. How could she abandon these cats? She'd grown up with them. She couldn't leave them alone with her mother and a monster like Splashtail. Besides, it was too late to escape. The battle was almost over. There was no way she'd get out. Splashtail won't let me leave, she says to Tawny Pelt. You can use the tunnel. Tawnypelt glanced at the camp wall beside them. Beneath the brambles, a dip in the ground made a gap. It was hidden by branches, but Sunbeam remembered it. She'd snuck out that way when she was an apprentice, going hunting with Blazefire and Lightleap while the rest of the clan was sleeping. Tawnypelt nudged her towards it. You'll be able to help us out there. Right, if she stayed, she'd be powerless. She'll be back. Tawnypelt knows. Woohoo. She then spends the remainder of the page continuing to waffle over whether or not to go.
So yeah, that was like the point I was making is that it was like Tawnypelt like did this like whole like, you know, act. I mean, Tawnypelt like helped her out to like try to get her to leave, and then she just stuck around, and then she like not only stuck around, but then she like went to bed and slept there. Mm-hmm. Like that's like a lot of time. Like, it wasn't just she stuck around for like a minute to like make sure everyone was safe, but she like just went overnight when like no one was fighting.
Yeah.
So like somehow when everyone was sleeping, she was still like worried.
Yeah, because she had gone through this whole thing, spent a page and a half getting to safety by Tawnypelt, and then ends the chapter by saying, I should leave. Nightheart would be waiting for her. She couldn't help him. She could help him plan how to save ShadowClan from Splashtail. But Sunbeam didn't move. She watched Berryheart cross the clearing and scowl at Cloverfoot. She must know this is wrong. Sunbeam's heart ached with hope. Berryheart had been raised as a warrior, as a true ShadowClan cat. She couldn't really have forgotten what it was to be loyal and brave and honorable. If I stay, Sunbeam's pulse quickened, I might still be able to save her. So that was their justification, was I'm not going to stay because I'm still holding out the Insius bit. Yeah, exactly. I can fix my mother.
Yeah. So I guess I don't know. It's just kind of weird.
Yeah. I'm more willing to take that though, because that justification at the very least fits in with what we'd seen of her beliefs about Berryheart when she was sick and outside of the clans, and also leads more naturally into the thoughts that she has after Berryheart's death. So I'm willing to accept that as an explanation. It's still a very long time.
So yeah, should we talk about Berryheart's death?
Yeah.
Or we already did? Or we already started it?
We're leading into it anyway. It's a good time to transition.
So, yeah, I think clearly what they were going for is that basically at the beginning of the arc, Curlfeather dies, saving Frostpaw. At the end of the arc, Berryheart dies, saving Sunbeam. So they really like... And then, you know, later in the book, chapter 14 and 15, they're back to back. There's a Curlfeather like conclusion chapter and a Berryheart conclusion chapter. I think they really want the readers to just like have both of those characters and like have them be very similar.
Mm-hmm.
They're not.
It definitely draws the mind to see the comparisons and the differences. Yeah.
Yeah, or at least like compare them.
Berryheart is planning a coup. Take her to the principal and have her expelled.
Yeah, and both of them were turning on Splashtail when they were murdered. I mean, never go against Splashtail. That's the moral.
Yeah, exactly. That's what should make you a follower. Berryheart's ultimate turn towards Berryheart's most heroic action at her end, the thing that makes up her heroic sacrifice, is that she was actually playing Splashtail, and her real intention was to take over ShadowClan for herself so that she could get stupid Tigerstar out there, complete her original plan, and make sure that the clans ended up her way instead of Tigerstar or Splashtail's way.
This is fine by me, to be honest with you. Like the motivation is fine. Her being completely terrible about it is fine. It's just that the conclusion was reached so quickly and obviously.
I kind of genuinely enjoy having the multiple villains alive and dead, because we'll get to Curlfeather in a minute. But multiple villains that each want some sort of power and takeover for their own specific reasons, and they all deeply hate each other and disagree with each other's reasons, so they're constantly undermining each other and trying to put up with each other. It's really fun. And I think Splashtail being such a young a snotty little upstart who really has no clue how to run a clan is kind of feeding into that a little bit in the I'm allowed to think of these villains as comical sometimes, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, Splashtail keeps reminding me of Soul, and then like they just like have this like clear immaturity and like thinking that they know everything.
Exactly.
Because they got like one lucky break.
Soul, at the very least, seemed like he knew more than Splashtail did. Splashtail's just a... I mean, I know they didn't really think of him this way, but Splashtail's just a little guy.
Yeah.
He's written as being immature on top of being young, but I don't think either of those things were on purpose. But, sorry, I don't mean to circle back to Splashtail. I'm sorry, we didn't talk about Splashtail at all. Now we're talking about Berryheart, and I'm talking about Splashtail. I'm so sorry, Sunny.
Oh, no, go right ahead.
So, towards the end of the book, they show, not the end, the middle of the book, they showcase, Splashtail, talking to himself, right? And everyone's like, oh my gosh.
Section.
Crap, okay, well, sorry, they showcase Splashtail talking to himself, and everybody's like, "Oh my goodness, Splashtail's crazy." But Splashtail isn't crazy. He's just been tormented by Curlfeather's ghost until he's erratic.
Yeah.
And that's fantastic.
It's a delight. This is part of my overall point with the villains who hate each other angle. Because Berryheart hates Splashtail, Curlfeather hates Splashtail, both of them annoy the pieces out of Splashtail, Splashtail annoys the pieces out of them, and Berryheart and Curlfeather never interact, but I can't imagine they really would have liked each other.
Okay, but you know what would be funny as heck, right?
What?
Splashtail orders the killing of Berryheart, goes through with it, Berryheart's dead, right? And then pop, right next to Curlfeather on the other shoulder, is frickin' conservative Berryheart giving the opposite, like the opposite bad advice to to Curlfeather's less conservative bad advice.
But wait, no.
So we've got like a little Curlfeather angel on one shoulder and a little Berryheart devil on the other shoulder.
No, they're both devils. They're just different varieties.
No. See, one devil has a halo and the other devil doesn't.
Oh, that's perfect.
I'll go start drawing out the short video later. Sorry, now I'm using this. I'm making a video ideas while we have a conversation.
That is absolutely fine.
It's fine because Sunny steals things that I say I'm gonna make while we have these conversations.
It's a natural consequence of conversation. Oh, also another thing that I should mention for later. Berryheart's death. Ultimately, it was ordered by Splashtail, who never feels like getting his paws dirty after Hairlight. But it was specifically done by Owlnose, who, after several attempts to plead with him, decided Splashtail's totally correct. I should have taken the leadership when I had the chance and made this less necessary. I should have driven ShadowClan from our camp. Splashtail is doing everything I should have done in the first place. He's such a great leader. I'm going to follow his orders and kill you. And I just think that the fact that this is Owlnose's most prominent scene for a good long while is important to keep in mind for one of our later topics. And that's all I'll say.
How embarrassing it is to be killed by Owlnose. She's gonna have no respect in the Dark Forest.
Honestly, like I legitimately don't know if they're gonna send Berryheart to the Dark Forest or not.
I think didn't they say she was?
Sunbeam assumes she will be, but they didn't show her in the Dark Forest.
But the website did.
Oh, okay. Well, I also don't believe the website. Until you shove it into the books and force it upon me, I'm not going to believe you.
But usually when the main character assumes something and there's no
it's probably true.
There's no contradiction, it's always canon.
I mean, if Curlfeather's in the Dark Forest, I think Berryheart should be as well. I just always resent people being sent to the Dark Forest because the rules of how you get there and the fact that you can never leave is always stupid.
Like at one point they were like I don't know. They seemed like they wanted to explore something where like with Snowtuft and Juniper Claw, and then they kind of just abandoned it after Broken Code ended.
I know what gray morality is. Saying that this cat does not belong in the Dark Forest, and then killing them. And then saying that this cat probably doesn't belong in the Dark Forest anymore, and saying, cool, so you can guard Limbo and still never come to Starclan.
Yeah.
I'm sure every so often a dead strike stone chases a mouse towards him.
He probably has a lot of fun with that. Anyway, getting back to our point. And since we already started traipsing into this territory anyway, Curlfeather's portrayal and Splashtail's hallucinations of her are a deeply fun element of this book. I really enjoyed that.
She's funny.
It's fun to me. There's also kind of like a little bit of a blurred line as to how much of Frostpaw's outburst towards Frostpaw's attack on Splashtail may or may not have been influenced by ghost power. And I think that's fun too.
Yeah. Well, Hairlight literally like just talked into her ear and gave her advice. So.
Oh, I thought she was remembering stuff. Was he actually there?
Wait, was he? Wait.
I assumed that it was nebulous if or not Frostpaw was being influenced by dead people or not. I thought that it was just kind of like up in the air. Like Frostpaw could have sat there and said, "Did you think that I couldn't hurt you?" Either on her own independently or because she was being possessed by an evil ghost or something. It doesn't matter because it's just cool and I don't care how or why she did it. But him talking to Curlfeather like evil ghost Curlfeather because like is neat because that's something that Warrior Cats has always shown us that can happen, you know. Warrior Cats has always shown us, hey, a dead person can just present themselves to the living and cause problems that way, especially the evil ones, and that's great. Like it's well established and should happen more often.
And where's the bullying?
Yeah.
Now I want to I don't want to write it. I want someone to try out a fan fiction of Hawkfrost's time in the New Prophecy, where Tiger Star is just constantly coming down and talking to him about how he's messing up his strikes, or he's acting too much like a Riverclan cat, or just being a jerk.
I want him to give his son relationship advice.
Yeah. Let me tell you how you get with a she-cat.
So
First, you have to never, ever care
Oh.
about or talk to the she-cat.
But actually, now speaking of dead cats talking to living cats, we actually do have a lot of that because, like, last arc we have Ashfur. I mean, last arc we had Ashfur, and then next arc we have Moonpaw.
Oh yeah, I really.
Oh.
I think that's something that I'm all for. Is whatever the heck is going on with Moonpaw. Like, I don't care if they literally just read Moon Rising and were like, you know what, we want to do this. That's fine by me.
I'm all for it. I think I categorized Ashfur differently than Curlfeather because he was trying to introduce the concept of possession, whereas Curlfeather seems to be in a sort of daydream hallucinatory state where she's not literally there and no one else can see her, but she's fully in the mind of one cat and is not controlling their actions but is talking to them.
That's how Ashfur communicated with Shadowsight specifically, was by presenting to Shadowsight and nobody
that's
else.
True. Yeah, I forgot that aspect.
Likewise, Bramblestar was not strong enough to appear to just some random person and instead had to follow little Rootpaw around.
Evil is more powerful.
Cat, yeah.
Yeah.
That's just nonsense, really. Like the idea that the Dark Forest cats can visit whoever they want in dreams, as established by the fourth arc, and can present themselves to people. Like it's a little bit like, why exactly can this happen? But I mean, it's established, so
yeah. Maybe it takes an evil person to do that.
Maybe
Starclan too nice.
Starclan just gets caught up in too many committees. They start up a group discussion with 5 random leaders and 2 Dawn of the Clans cats every time they need to decide if and how to send a message to some random living guy.
You know what I would do if I was Aaron Hunter? I would make it so that to show yourself to a cat, like to be able to show yourself to a cat from then on, you need to do like a sacrifice. You have to like sacrifice another spirit to the wind and the trees or something.
Oh,
and
no.
and that's why the bad cats can always do it, is because they're more than willing to just sacrifice some other cat. And Spotted Leaf broke a few rules.
So good. Oh no, because she kept doing that constantly. Oh, okay. So evil is more powerful because good has a couple
Standards,
more
yeah.
standards. Yeah, unless you're Spotted Leaf, who kills cats all day.
Or maybe it harms the fabric of the dark forest, but the dark forest already sucks, so who cares? You know, like who knows? You know, it would be funny if they added some sort of price to showing yourself to living cats, because it wouldn't be funny. It would just justify all of these problems.
Yeah,
Either way, sorry.
yeah, because if the Starclan could just show themselves to living cats, then there wouldn't even be this arc wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
I think the whole point is like they couldn't show themselves to Frostpaw until she was like until she somehow became a medicine cat.
She unlocked her chakras by meditating.
Yeah.
I still kind of wish, and I know this would go against the entire fabric of the Warriors universe and their foundation since the beginning, but I really kind of wish that one day we just almost cut the ancestors off and it became a very, very rare thing for anyone to be able to even like send an omen or a prophecy, and that there weren't any direct conversations.
It's hard to walk it back now. They opened Pandora's box.
I mean, the last two arcs were kind of like that, to be fair.
But in both of them, it was staged as a temporary thing. Like we need to get the moon pool to unfreeze, or we need to get Ashfur's influence out, or we need to get a cat who can talk to Starclan. I think what I want is for the medicine cats themselves to stop having direct access to Starclan in the have a full-on conversation way. Which is something you would need a really massive change to justify, but I think it would make future stories easier.
A change that could result in the arc being titled "Changing Skies." Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
That really just sounds like they're gonna move again.
Yeah.
We're gonna. They were like, oh geez, now that we're making this second Roblox game, what are we gonna do for our third Roblox game?
If the next arc and a possible move was motivated by the Roblox game,
you know how much money that stuff makes?
That's actually that's so on brand for Warrior Cats.
Yeah, no, it fully is, because there's 100% it's following the money. Warrior Cats Ultimate Edition is the big moneymaker in Warriors right now. It would make total sense, but I would still be shaking my head privately in a corner.
They really need to start putting little DLC codes in the inside plastic in the books, and selling the books with a little plastic thing that gives you DLC, that gives you like a special leaf for your character in Roblox Ultimate Edition, and they would suddenly be selling way more books for no reason.
Get a special scar. It looks identical to Frostpaw's one.
Yeah,
You can have it on your
neck
neck.
broken open.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so...
Hopefully that scar, not the other one.
Anyway, speaking of...
So curl feather. One question I had about curl feather is...
Oh, yes.
In the very beginning of the arc, the whole thing is she says, "Trust no cat," and you don't know why she says that. Now that we know everything, why didn't she just say to tell the Frostpaw that she hated Splashtail?
Okay. So, I can think of a couple justifications for it, but the honest answer is they just didn't want to reveal anything.
Yeah, because the closest, the theory I had back in the day was like, oh, she says trust no cat because she didn't know it was Splashtail specifically who betrayed her. There were a lot of cats it could have been, and she's like, oh, just trust no cat. It's a blanket statement. But then over time, like, she clearly knows it was Splashtail, and then talks to Frostpaw again and doesn't reveal it.
So, my best attempt at justifying this, using information in the books, but it's not explained in the books, is that because Splashtail was able to get some genuinely loyal followers. Curlfeather might have been worried that even if she were to go after Splashtail, there might be other cats who would side with him anyway. And she didn't want to hurt her little baby girl. It's not in the books, and even so, it's not a good justification, because, like, the sooner you get to Splashtail and actually take him out, the less followers he's gonna have. I mean, obviously, the Watsonian reason is that they just didn't want to tell you. They didn't want to tell you that quickly. They need to have Frostpaw go on our journey.
Warrior cats.
Warrior cats. In general, and I know I'm going to bring this up in a couple of later points as well, but I really, really, really wish that they ever planned things from the beginning before they start writing anything.
I think that this book... Okay, this is conspiratorial, okay? This is me with the tinfoil hat on with 10 flags waving in the air. I think that they had a plan for this book, and that they may or may not have even had portions of this book written. Things that happened in this book already. And I think that those portions that may or may not have been written were some of the battles, some of the fights that they were having, and Nightheart having some sort of fight, some sort of conclusion, some sort of big thing that he does in Riverclan, right? Mm-hmm. I also believe that it's entirely possible that the leader ceremony at the end was written before they knew who the leader was going to be in this book.
It is very distant from that, so yeah, that would make sense.
I genuinely believe that, like, they weren't sure who they were going to slot in there. And I believe that some of the Sunbeam chapters were changed to Nightheart chapters, and some of the Nightheart chapters were changed to Sunbeam chapters.
There's physical evidence of that one, yeah.
There's physical evidence of that one in multiple chapters.
Yeah.
What's the evidence?
Oh, where
they change perspectives randomly between Nightheart and Sunbeam.
In multiple Nightbeam and Sunheart?
Nightbeam.
Oh boy.
Nightbeam is their ship name now.
In multiple Sunbeam and Nightheart chapters across the arc, they've had issues where it'll be a Nightheart chapter and suddenly Sunbeam's thought will come in. Like a paragraph will just be from Sunbeam's perspective and she'll think a Sunbeam thought, or vice versa.
But they won't say the name.
Well, there's a particular point in that's very, very weird in an early chapter in Star.
Yeah.
Where
it's chapter 4. I can actually pull it up.
He is literally watching something happen to Sunbeam, or vice versa. I think he's watching something happen to Sunbeam, and then it switches perspective to Sunbeam, and she's not doing the thing that he was watching her do in the exact same paragraph, and it's incredibly confusing.
It's this exactly. The beginning of chapter 4 starts off with, Nightheart leaned back against the soft grass and watched Cinnamon Tail's kits racing around the clearing. Stream Kit streaked ahead of her littermates. The gray tabby she kit was small but quick. The others tore after her, their tails fluffed out with excitement, squealing for her to slow down. Nightheart nudged Sunbeam. She's faster than a Winclan cat, he mewed. She'll make a fine apprentice. Sunbeam purred. Her mother is a good runner, too. She must have inherited it. Sunbeam had been in a good mood since Berryheart had arrived earlier that morning, talking about Sunbeam's thoughts. Even though her mother was wounded, the wounds weren't deep, and more importantly, Berryheart had turned on Splashtail.
This isn't even the part that I was thinking of.
It must have been a brave thing to do, and despite her injuries, she'd gone with Tigerstar to help clean up Splashtail's mess. Sunbeam was sure Berryheart had finally become more like her old self, the one Sunbeam had grown up with, and even wondered hopefully if she'd ask Tigerstar to take her back into ShadowClan. Outside the Elder's Den, Oakfur was washing. He looked up with a start, blah, 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 clan descriptions. And then Nightheart's belly growled with hunger. Why don't you eat? Sunbeam nodded towards a stiff mouse on the fresh kill pile. It feels wrong to take food from ShadowClan, Nightheart told her, especially when it's a chewy old mouse, Nightheart thinks.
Well, this wasn't the part I was talking about at all.
Oh, that was okay. That was the first one that stuck out to me. No.
Let me grab the more obvious one real quick because I did get the actual text.
Yeah, it is kind of fitting in a way that this is the end result. When the entire arc, we've been complaining that the Nightheart and Sunbeam's characters are kind of like converging into one. Mm-hmm. And then now they've become so close that we can't even like, the authors can't even like remember.
This is one of my problems when they start writing characters like a matched set. They genuinely forget to distinguish the two a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, this might not actually be like them switching the perspectives. It might just be them like forgetting as they write it, or like writing it out of order a little bit. And
here's the part that that really got me. Okay. Not Blazefire. It had been moons since Sunbeam had believed that he might be her mate, but it still made her ache to see him hurt. Blood roared in Nightheart's ears. Where was Sunbeam? He glanced toward the nursery. She crouched at the entrance, thrusting Moonkitti inside. So, Sunbeam is thinking to herself about seeing Blazefire get attacked, and it's implied that she's going to go and save Blazefire. But then in the same paragraph, the perspective switches to Nightheart, watching her do something else entirely with the nursery and thinking Nightheart's thoughts.
I'd forgotten to note that one down, but that is that is incredible.
Yeah, I kind of tune out during all the battle scenes, so
yeah,
I didn't miss that one.
I'm very, very bad about battle scenes, I'll fully admit that.
There's the picture of the paragraph in the book.
In the line of battles, though, shall we discuss the ultimate battle against Splashtail?
Fight, kill. I think it's okay. So when they all come into camp, there's a whole bunch of cats, and there's only like 20 cats in Riverclan.
Yep.
So out of the 20 cats in Riverclan, they're all like, well, we can't do this. There's too many cats here. And Splashtail says, okay, guys, you have to fight and you have to die for me. You have to go and fight to the last breath, else I'm gonna kill my terrible tiny little brother. And they're like, no, and they all attack him. They beat him up. Little paws. And then he takes off into the river with his miserable, matted, pathetic, sopping wet little sister, and claims that he's going to make a new Riverclan somewhere else.
I didn't get that part.
He's gonna start a whole clan with that one kid.
She's me and my sister. We're gonna go be Riverclan somewhere where there isn't a ghost of Crowfeather chasing me.
Are you gonna find a loner? Are you gonna wait a year and wait for your sister to find? How do you think this is going to work?
We don't need to think about that. We did not get that far, Sunny. Okay, you don't need to question it. Okay, the sister is she's gonna bud into more sisters.
Oh boy, that I don't think that's how cats work, Splashtail.
She's still small enough that she can break into two cells.
Oh boy.
I think the idea is that that was his like furthest descent into madness.
Yeah, like he is fully just
like as the book as the book goes, everything becomes more and more unreasonable.
Yeah, draining into semi-delusional territory.
I think we don't have this on our topics list, but like how he set up the trap for Tiger Star.
Oh, true. I completely forgot to put that on here.
There's like part like I just thought it was odd that Tiger Star, the entire like arc, is like the most distrusting of Riverclan and like has no trust for Riverclan, and then suddenly he's just like, hey guys, Tiger Star, come over here. Splashtail's on the bridge. We hate him now.
Okay, but I've kind of been like on the defense about this one before because I guess I was tricked. I was tricked by Berryheart, the reader, even though that's, not most people's reaction. I just took it at face value that this was happening because I'm so used to taking everything in Warrior Cats at face value because a lot of things that actually happen in Warrior Cats is equivalent to that plot point.
Yeah.
But, when it comes to that in particular, I think that a lot of the cats wanted to believe this. It wasn't really a question of if or not it was convincing, so much as this is already what everyone was hoping would happen with Riverclan, was that somebody was going to say, hey, Splashtail bad, we need help, even if that person was, evil Berryheart.
I think it's also worth pointing out that they did suspect it was a trap going in. They said, gee, this seems a little too convenient and quick and suspicious, given that we just came from seeing him kill Hairlight. But again, they were choosing to go with it because they thought that it would be worse if they didn't go and Berryheart was telling the truth than if they did go and she wasn't.
Also, if like, I don't know, if the island is so dangerous to get off of, if like one cat is blocking the bridge, why do they hold gatherings there? Like, it just seems like what if one of the apprentices just falls off the branch, falls off?
I guess in normal circumstances, they're just hoping that a Riverclan cat hops in and saves them.
People have fallen off the bridge before.
J-Kit
I
did.
think in Power 3, I think maybe.
And Crowfeather just kind of reached down and picked him up by the scruff in that case.
I think the difference is really that, like, the clans have a lot of, like a big truce going on, you know, when it comes to the gathering. And if 3/4 of the clans would be in big trouble if a fight broke out there, it actually keeps the peace more so than it doesn't.
I don't know. It seems like it
would be an advantage for Riverclan, I think, if there wasn't, you know, so many more cats than Riverclan cats.
Just trying to imagine, like, what if Riverclan did band together and, like, just during a gathering, they're like, oh, I guess Riverclan is showing up late. And then, like, when they turn around, Riverclan's, like, all, like, crowded around the tree saying, like, you're trapped.
I guess the thing deterring that is that, like, even for Frostpaw, who is a Riverclan cat who spends a lot of time in the water, she was pointing out the difference between swimming across the lake and swimming through her normal rivers. It's deeper, it's longer, it's much wider.
Wait. Sorry, are we sure this was the Gathering Island and not just some other island?
No, it was the Gathering
Because there was a
Island.
tree bridge.
Yeah. They were talking about the tree bridge and how they were blocking it.
They say the island, and for some reason I had assumed that it was a different island.
They talk about it being at the Gathering Island and the tree bridge, and Frostpaw swims over the lake directly towards WindClan's shore, so I'm pretty sure it was the Gathering Island.
Let me see if they ever call it the Gathering Island in the whole book.
I don't even know if they call it the Gathering Island, like, regularly.
Yeah.
They just say the Gathering and the island most of the time, like when they have a gathering.
Yeah, Splashtails escaped to the island. The small island ringed with trees looked peaceful in the still water. I thought he was heading for the horse place. He must have changed plans. The horse place is directly across from the island, so it also feels like it should be the Gathering Island.
Okay, I guess I just my like, because the cats need to go, you know, halfway across the lake to get to the island because it's on the opposite side from their territory. I just made an assumption that there was some other island they trapped them on at first. Sorry about that.
I think the reason they were choosing the Gathering Island, in addition to it just being advantageous for Riverclan, was partially because it would trap Tiger Star specifically so far away from his own camp, so that he couldn't go to ShadowClan and save them.
So ShadowClan should not have lost that battle.
No.
The Riverclan cats, like, half of them were, like, you know, kind of like holding back a little bit. They were scared.
They're putting much more emphasis and weight than they should on the idea of Riverclan being so much better because they've had so much battle training. But you know what also adds to the strength of your fighting force? Both in real life and fiction. Eating. Making sure your army is well fed. Splashtail has been refusing to feed everyone. They, like, realistically, they should be equal or weaker.
Especially, like, once half the group, like, leaves, because Splashtail, like, has to, like, go back and do other business. He takes, like, half the group with him. Like, why don't they just say, okay, like, hey, get out?
And it was never realistic that he'd be able to take over all 5 clans this way. Like, you have 20 cats total. You're not going to spread yourself that thin and still succeed.
Yeah, it's hard to believe even just, like, had anything with ShadowClan. They just, like, kind of rolled over and died.
That said, the finale that ended up being Frostpaw's confrontation with Splashtail to save little baby kitten and also accidentally on her part kill him while dying herself was very well written, and I'd love to hear from you about how that looked in your head, because it looked like it would probably be cool.
I think that Splashtail dragging a baby kitten across the river was funny, actually. Okay. What in particular, Sunny?
So, so Frostpaw's final confrontation with Splashtail that had some fighting moves, and I think Splashtail reopened her old neck wound that he had already done before, but Frostpaw also called on some things that Hairlight had taught her, and won, and she got to see Splashtail die before she went into a coma.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, there wasn't really much more to say than that. I think that they could make a really good map part out of it, like Brambleclaw, like Brambleclaw putting a stake through his brother. Yeah, Hawkkz putting a stake through his brother, but it didn't actually happen that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that sort of visualization, or Mapleshade using her snake laser beams, or releasing the snake personally and stuff like that. Like, I think that people could make it a lot cooler than it is.
It's been a minute. It's been a minute since we've had a cool death, because Ashfur just sunk into the water, disappeared.
Yeah,
it's not very cool. Darktail, got pushed into the water, didn't come out. It's pretty not that cool.
Yeah.
That still made some pretty good map parts.
Yeah.
I have no doubt. If you dive the camera underwater to actually see what was happening with One Star and Darktail,
the problem was that WordCats, I guess, I think they might have done that in the Super Edition. I don't know. I heard they remember that Super Edition.
I think
ha pretends to have read One Star's confession.
I think for the prologue they shifted very quickly to the we're in Starclan perspective now. But they might have done a little bit of the Darktail death.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just thought it was probably the thing that would be cool visually if I was capable of visuals and wanted to check in with people who have visuals.
Yeah.
Go do this, artist.
Imagine
thing.
It like
yeah.
some hack and slash video games, just like and like Splashtail explodes into a million pieces.
Frostpaw remembers the combo move that Hairlight taught her.
Yeah. And following.
Huge butterfly kick on Splashtail.
What is a butterfly kick?
It was the one combo move that I knew when I was a little kid, and I would just use it over and over again.
Oh, is it a martial arts thing?
It was a combo move in a fighting game.
Oh, okay. Video game. Gotcha. And following this very cool butterfly kick, with Splashtail dead, and Frostpaw comatose.
And Lightleap was there too.
Oh, also, Lightleap was there. She does nothing important. She has lost all personality.
She gets credit for the assist.
But absolutely, she is there, and she did assist. You're right. And after that, Riverclan is left with no leader, no deputy, and no connection to Starclan. And they do a few things. They confront and exile a couple of Splashtail's followers, but not all of them. They turn to Mothwing and ask her to pretty please make Frostpaw better so she can tell them a leader. And under Malinose's direction, they briefly try to start a democratic republic. I found this fascinating. At least conceptually.
A lot of the ideas they have are just that. Like there's also like the conflict of they only want Frostpaw to come back to tell us leader. Why don't you but then she just comes back and tells them who the leader is. Okay, so they are right.
I think in that vein, it's less that they shouldn't care about Frostpaw's role in getting them a leader, and more that they should care about Frostpaw beyond what she can do for them.
Yeah. That was I get what they were trying to say. It's just they didn't show us that. They didn't nothing bad happened because they thought that way.
Yeah.
They were kind of rewarded for thinking that way because Frostpaw did come through.
I think they were trying to settle that in the if you don't come together and prove that you actually genuinely like Frostpaw with the tree sister circle, which is their only way of doing that. If you hadn't done that, she would die, and you would have no leader and no Frostpaw.
Didn't have that off-screen interaction. It definitely felt like. I thought too hard about it and I forgot. What?
Oh.
I'd like to issue a correction. The one combo I knew how to do was the spinning bird kick, not the butterfly kick.
These have some very creative names.
I think that they rolled off the tongue better when they were in Japanese.
I believe that.
So where are we?
Riverclan's semi-recovery, with trying to run their own world for a while they wait for Frostpaw to pretty please recover.
Yeah, they didn't do a very good job of that.
No.
Wait. What I was about to say was that it felt like they did come together and care for Frostpaw in the end, but it still felt very fake, like they were just pretending to care.
Yeah. It's something where I genuinely like that idea, and I like that message that they are trying to convey, but to execute that well, you have to have put in more work before that scene to make it feel real. And also, I think the only she-cats in the singing circle thing is still stupid. Tree's right there.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, that she specifically woke up and said, "I see Tree and all of the she-cats that care about me."
Oh, because of the sisters.
Yeah.
It has to be connected to the sisters somehow. But, like, if you're reading this book, like, it's not even... The sisters are so far out from relevance. Unless you had Ivy Pool's heart.
I think...
I went and got all the she-cats that care about you, because even though I have grown past the sexist society I was born in, I still reinforce those gender roles in society today.
Yeah.
I can't believe singing is a woman-only power. I'm stupid.
Anyone should be allowed to sing. Nightheart cares more about Frostpaw than any other living cat on this lake.
I hope they let him sing anyway. I hope that they let Nightheart sing in their stupid girls-only choir. I'm so mad.
Tree's entire story and how it fits in with the sisters and sex, it's a massive can of worms. So to pull it back a little, I think the most successful, to me, singular scene of no Frostpaw Riverclan was actually when they went to the gathering and just had everyone in Riverclan talking at the leaders. I kind of wish that they had gone with that just a little bit longer, because the pseudo-democracy angle for Riverclan could have been fun if we went with it a little deeper.
See, what I wanted them to draw out a little bit was the semi-normalcy in ShadowClan while they were waiting.
Ah, that too.
I know that sounds a little bit bizarre, but I liked having a few minutes for the cats to breathe, and it didn't last as long as I wanted it to.
They talk about the Berry Heart burying Berry Heart scene.
The Berry Heart burial?
Yeah. Like that's that chapter? Or a different one?
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I was talking about so I was talking about the period of everything's going back to normal that Sunbeam and Nightheart had. The chapter that Sunny started reading to us, where Cinnamon Tail's kits are running around and stuff early on. I think it's chapter 4. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed that, like, small sliver of like of fakeness that they had going on.
Oh.
And I wish that and Berry Heart were dragged out a little bit more in this book, and maybe a little bit less time was spent on Frostpaw's coma to make up for it.
I think if oh, sorry, go right ahead.
Oh, yeah, the breakdown is for the whole book is 60% before Splashtail dies, 40% after Splashtail dies. About.
I think like even that percentage could have been okay for me. The pacing isn't as massive a deal as I know it has been for some other friends who have read this. Just because not to this extreme, but this is sort of what I wanted from the end of The Last Hope back in Omen of the Stars, where after the battle we go into a little bit of the grief and the consequences and some closer to the more trauma bonding stuff before we close it out.
That's why they wanted to sell you a novella for that
It's
one.
called Dove Wing's Silence,
Yeah, I
and it's
know.
the best Omen of the Stars book.
I agree, but it should have been in Omen of the Stars. But there too, it was 10 chapters of effectively epilogue material, and slotting that into this book makes more sense to me, especially since not as much content needed to happen over the entire arc. The problem there is their insistence on sticking to the Frostpaw Nightheart Sunbeam, Frostpaw Nightheart Sunbeam chapter structure. Because I think it could have been a lot more powerful if we didn't get as many chapters of Frostpaw in the coma and checked in only occasionally to see those more stylistic departures, and spent most of the time with Sunbeam and Nightheart in the clans as time trickles by.
And I think they broke the pattern once, right? Towards the ceremonies at the end.
Yeah.
So like they can break the pattern, so why don't they just break the pattern more? It was like,
It's been 3 minutes since Frostpaw woke up and my beautiful wife is pregnant.
We'll get there. But I feel like that would have been called an epilogue, and because that was the epilogue section, they were a little more willing to bend the rules. I wish they had bent them more and earlier.
it's like in the super editions, what would have been the graphic novel like part.
Exactly.
They should start adding those to the normal books. They can just they can teach Clarissa to draw, and then have her draw some cats that say everything is perfect now and my wife is pregnant at the end of every book.
Everything's perfect now and my wife is pregnant after every book? Not every arc?
It's a different cat. It's a different cat every single book that says everything is perfect now and my wife is pregnant, like at the end of Bramblestar Storm and the end of
not
this.
at the end of every arc, but at the end of every book.
At the end of every book, someone is pregnant somewhere.
We've gone through the thunderous mountain of plot in book 3, and everyone is upset, and Frostpaw is dead, and we cut to an epilogue where Cinnamon Tail says, "I'm really loving my kittens."
No, see, Cinnamon Tail, she already had
true.
kittens. We don't care anymore.
Queen.
It's we look at Splash Tail's mom, and she says everything is perfect, and my life is myself is I give up. Okay, I give up. I'm going home.
No, it's perfect.
But yeah, Riverclan. When Riverclan scatters, they all go to different clans and stuff like that, and they try to like go and live in them and be in them. And a lot of people have taken it kind of badly that the clans weren't just like, yeah, we want all these Riverclan cats, or at least that Squirrel Star wasn't like, yeah, I want all these Riverclan cats. And I see where she's coming from, not just because I'm a Squirrel Flight apologist and I will say absolutely anything to defend her to any extent, but also because these people were literal criminals like 2 minutes ago.
Yeah. That's one of the factors I hadn't even considered, but it's a good one.
This is also the point they make in the book. Like, seriously, they can't even wait for Frostpaw to like die or not. Like,
yeah, they have no.
Wait 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks. Like, chill. Just wait until Frostpaw wakes up.
Haven't had a period of like if or not Riverclan is going to recover, and what are they going to do if Riverclan did recover? You know what I mean? Like let's say these guys are over in ThunderClan eating voles and other disgusting non-fish substances, and Riverclan makes this full recovery and has a leader and is doing great and whatnot. What are they going to do? Are they going to stay in ThunderClan? So I get it. I get it from the perspective of the people saying no, don't come to my house.
But I also do understand why Lizardtail and either Gorseclaw or Night Sky, depending on the chapter, would want to go to ThunderClan. If it's somewhere that they've been actively in a heightened state of fear of their own home and their own clanmates and leader for a month, we'll say. The timeline is funky, but at least a month. It would make sense that they want to get out of there for a while, and even that they'd consider leaving.
In comparison, the two dudes that really wanted to join the clans, ThunderClan was like, yeah, we want you to stay here, you should stay here. You know, so it's not like ThunderClan is some sort of, like, anti-newcomer society all of a sudden. They just know that these cats already don't really want to be in ThunderClan, and they make that pretty clear in the book. I'm just, fighting with invisible people here.
I think it comes up as an argument point a lot because... Hairstar makes such a point of saying, well, ThunderClan is being approved, but we'd take you. And it's because WindClan has such a small population comparison to ThunderClan. But secondly, because Sunbeam's own narration starts getting worried about her place in ThunderClan because of Squirrelflight's stance, which she shouldn't be. Squirrelstar made a distinction multiple times about why she has this stance with Gorseclaw and Lizardtail, and why she would not have that stance with anyone else who comes to ThunderClan.
You know, related to this situation, I am really glad that they remembered Fernstripe existed and had Fernstripe say words. Like, that was amazing. It's like, oh my gosh, Fernstripe, you're here, Fernstripe! Like, I got excited.
We actually managed to talk in most of our previous podcasts about how Fernstripe noticeably did not exist. So this was great.
Not to be, like, Warrior Cat's weird background character fan number 7, but, I really like the weird ones. Like, the really strange ones that are just there and they haven't done anything with them. They just have some sort of situation going on. That's what Fernstripe feels like, because first of all, her mate is this, weird, angry, kind of, like,
xenophobic...
Thornclaw leaning kind of character. So this guy has absolutely no legs to stand on when it comes to like clan values or doing the right thing or the wrong thing or anything. But Fernstripe just waddles into ThunderClan like, hey, I'm gonna be Shelfer's mate. Shelfer, the guy who like yells at people and is angry and is Bumblestripe's apprentice nephew. It's like. I really like that. I want to know what her deal is. I never will know what her deal is, but I'm glad that she said something. Here she is.
I think when I originally saw that in the book, I will go find it now. Fernstripe. Yes.
just for me, okay. I'll make...
The second part is irrelevant.
I'll make talking Fernstripe for you.
You were the first Fernstripe fan I could think of.
Anyway, sorry for ringing out Fernstripe, ringing out Riverclan semi-recovery over here, and I don't mean to keep us at a snail's pace.
We've been sort of simultaneously doing 3 points at once, so it works. We have touched upon this already a bit, but one of the most moving aspects to me about Nightheart's third of the story was very much his continued care for Frostpaw, something that I fully thought they would forget about after the 4th book, and they didn't. And he's still a good friend and her biggest advocate, and like he still cares about her from across the lake a bit, and that's nice to see.
I don't think it's particularly out of the ordinary for him, though. Like, last series, even though nobody had ever had a conversation with Shadowsight, they felt pretty much the same way about him.
The difference here is that instead of showing up at the end of Book 5 and Bristlefrost saying, Shadowsight, my beloved friend who I care about and trust deeply, with Nightheart and Frostpaw, they actually had a friendship, and it's justified that they are acting like that.
It'd be nice if he did something about it. Actions speak louder than narration thoughts, Nightheart. I was gonna call him Frostpaw.
If I were to
I got them backwards.
Another arc, which I will not. I will not.
You won't.
But it would be this one. There's so many ideas.
I don't see why they didn't at least give him that fight. You know, like they didn't even let him be on screen for it.
I think if Nightheart ordered Tree around in this book, it would be nice.
Okay, if Tree had brought Nightheart along, brought Nightheart or Sunbeam or both along to try and contact Frostpaw's spirit, that would be good. That would be fine for them. But, yeah, he's done it before. Remember, he broadcasted the ghost of Pebbleshine to her daughters.
Yes, but that was when Pebbleshine was dead, and when Bramblestar was flung out of his body entirely.
What's the difference here?
Frostpaw is still in her body, and there's no one else there.
Wasn't mostly the same thing done with Scrollflight too, with Tree? Or at least to some extent. Like I don't see why he can't. I don't see the difference here. I think that he totally could have dragged that spirit to Earth and been like, here you go, have a conversation. I don't think there's any reason he couldn't have done it.
Scrollflight's spirit?
I'm pretty sure Scrollflight attempted to or successfully contacted Tree. I could be wrong. It doesn't matter. I'll Scrollflight's hope. Blah blah blah. Either way, what I'm getting at is there's no reason for Tree not to be able to drag that spirit to Earth and make it speak. There's no because this stuff is so random to begin with already that there's just nothing backing up the idea that he couldn't do that. I think they should have been involved and they were not. What do you think about Nightheart, Akira?
Nothing.
Well.
Thoughts are empty. Nightheart is like, I'm glad that like they did something with him, but it's very clear that like Frost Dawn is the main focus here.
Definitely.
Like in Last Hope, in Light in the Mist, they put it all in Bristlefrost. Here, it's all like Frost Dawn's the focus. They don't really split things up. I'm sure next arc Moonpaw will like be the main focus of book 6 too. They tend to have this one like protagonist they play favorite with.
Mm-hmm. I would argue that last arc, Shadowsight had a lot more to do in the book and a lot more purpose than either of the two sidekicks did in this one. I like Shadowsight like ignores orders and goes into the dark forest and gets attacked by Ashfur, and in that is how Bristlefrost goes down. It's saving Shadowsight, if I remember correctly. So like I think that Shadowsight had some sort of role to play in the final book of A Light in the Mist, and Root Spring having the epilogue chapter in A Light in the Mist made more sense than, say, Nightheart's epilogue chapter where he didn't do anything in this one. Like, I think that all of the characters in A Light in the Mist were stronger than like not on like an individual basis, but like as far as how much they used and how important the side characters were, they were a lot more important than in A Light in the Mist than they were in this one.
Yeah, I could see that. I wasn't talking like just on like the focus, but like not like how much they are there. It's how much like they shine. Like how many heroic like punches they get. How many like oh, this cat is so cool. This cat saved us all. That sort of like thing.
I think that Aaron Hunter really only ever has one punch in them every single arc end. Do you know what I mean? Like even in early arcs, it was the same way.
Like Firestar really only made one big punch in the last
Firestar
book.
Was the only point of view, but
yes, but like even with Firestar, when there was one point of view, he sat by and watched other people take care of Tigerstar. It was complicated, it was emotional, but as far as the big heroic moment, he sat there and watched Scourge deal with Tigerstar, and his big punch was with Scourge.
I guess you could say that Firestar also gets the final punch in the fourth arc as well.
You could. The three in the fourth arc don't do anything. Neither of them get a heroic
in
beat.
book 6.
Nothing.
Oh.
Arguably Hollyleaf, who is not a point of view character at all in Omen of the Stars, gets a more heroic beat than any of the actual three do.
Ivypool gets a chance to beat Hawkfrost once and for all, and she fails at it and gets replaced by Brambleclaw.
Yeah.
Although that's kind of weird anyway, because they corner Hawkfrost's ghost in ThunderClan to like kill him in like a group situation. It's really, really weird. They're like trial by death to Hawkfrost. It's really messed up, honestly.
And
like last. I don't know.
Oh yes, no, sorry, go right ahead.
Yeah, Last Hope, they really they had like an unnecessary need to wrap everything up because they were, Victoria Holmes was was passing off the torch and so forth. So, but they I don't know, they didn't want to leave anything open, so they had to kill Hawkfrost. It was just like they're kind of
but like they could have just made it so that Hawkfrost wouldn't give up. They didn't have to like corner Hawkfrost so that he couldn't get away and like drag him back so they could kill him. It was weird.
Brambleclaw's already killed Hawkfrost once. Give someone else a turn.
They tried, but apparently Ivypool sucks too much.
And then, like...
She only, learned all of Hawkfrost's best battle moves.
With Bristlefrost, even, like, she absolutely gets the big heroic moment. She takes down Ash first, she does her sacrificial death, she dives in the water. But that's kind of the only big moment that anyone gets with someone major. There's Firestar versus Darkstripe.
Yeah.
Which should not be a major moment. Darkstripe has not been a thing at all in this arc.
They made it one.
Yeah, but they made it one. They treated it like a big heroic moment.
Firestar gets a third point. Brambleclaw 2, Firestar 3.
What we have consistently here is that the actual main characters of our arc will get maybe one heroic beat shared between them if they're lucky.
Okay, but remember when Twig Branch picked up Softpaw and literally threw her over a wall of fire? That was so cool. It was in a terrible book, but it was an awesome scene.
I'll agree to that. But like in the new prophecy, Brambleclaw is again the only one who gets a heroic beat. You don't see Leafpaw or Squirrelflight or Stormfur or Feathertail. Okay, Feathertail's the only other one.
Who?
Yeah, sorry. You don't see Squirrelflight or Leafpool or Stormfur with any heroic beats, and Feathertail gets a heroic beat despite only having 2 chapters to be a point of view character. So I guess this is just my thing that I'd like them to divide heroic. I think I'd like them to increase the number of heroic moments and divide them more evenly across the characters that are actually protagonists right now.
I don't need heroic beats, I just need meaningful conclusions. And I think on some level, my thought as to what a meaningful conclusion is, and Aaron's thought, Aaron plural,
yeah.
Aaron's thought is as to what a meaningful conclusion is, are 2 different things.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I think that they believed that a strong conclusion to Sunbeam would be that funeral where she goes, I guess my horrible, terrible, awful, no good, bad mother was a little okay. And that doesn't really ring to me. Like, that doesn't ring to me as a meaningful conclusion. And for Nightheart, it was, my wife's pregnant!
Oh, no. There was one before that for Nightheart. That's Nightheart's epilogue. But Nightheart's absolutely, this is his moment that they think is wrapping up his character, was on the patrol, where I think Poppy Frost had said, gee, Nightheart, you're growing more and more like Firestar every day.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
Lion Blaze said, no, shut up, Poppy Frost, you're wrong. He's not Firestar, he's himself. And Nightheart said, wow, a year ago I would have really hated that. But now I'm kind of okay with it, and I'm proud of me as me for reasons. And also, I have kids. I have a pregnant wife. This is fantastic.
Okay. Poppy Frost says something that isn't even so... okay, maybe it's habit in ThunderClan to compare people to Firestar all the time, alright? Because, Poppy Frost I don't think was one of the culprits earlier.
No.
She has been getting more and more, like Thornclaw-ish, which is gonna make me strangle someone,
yeah.
But she wasn't really one of the people who did it to him before. That was Brackenfur and his mother, and I think that's it. And I think it's funny that immediately after Nightheart's like, wow, Lion Blaze didn't really need to yell at her like that, but I'm gonna let it happen.
A year ago, I would have been mad at that comment and would have yelled right alongside Lion Blaze. But now I'm just going to calmly and silently nod while Lion Blaze yells for me. This is much better.
Lion Blaze does not actually yell at Poppy Frost, so people know. This is not going to become a rumor that I'm spreading.
Yeah, he makes one quiet comment.
One other important thing that Nightheart does is at the very beginning of the book, where he saves he faces the 2 legs to save Mothwing.
Oh, that's true. I had forgotten about that one.
Which, indirectly saves Frostpaw, because, Mothwing saves Frostpaw at the end.
That's true, yeah. I guess the other part or the way they tried to involve him in the plot, is the whole sacrificing himself for the kits, getting taken by Riverclan as a prisoner. But the weird thing about that for me, and this actually came up a few times with him specifically, where he would have a solid page or two of going over in meticulous detail exactly what his plan was and how they were going to approach this situation and go for it and either escape or take down Splashtail or get the kits away or whatever. And then they would skip to the next chapter or to the next page break, and he would say, "So I didn't do that. It either failed immediately or I just decided not to do it because I was scared and there were too many cats and it was scary." Like, I think it was about the third time into this particular trend where I just started thinking, you could show any of these attempts, you know.
I didn't show a thing. So what's this next bullet point you got, Sunny?
I think the Curl Feather chapter was cool, and then the chapter where she was just getting random memories from the past is like, okay, I don't get it anymore.
Yeah.
I felt like they were dragging at that point.
The Ember Star thing is... I feel like they're gonna bring that up again somehow, some way, because I don't know what that was.
She saw every single moment in which Riverclan almost died, including the one where somebody goes into a house.
Very important.
Might have something to do with their future StormClan era. Time.
Oh, please, StormClan era.
Please.
I'll read it so much.
Yeah, because they're definitely doing StormClan era, like Super Edition.
Absolutely. I'm still banking on them making... It'll be Arc 10, right?
I think...
After Chasing Skies?
No, well, I mean, they're gonna do the second half Super Edition, which is probably gonna be, like, StormClan related. But, if they were to do an arc after that, I'd be on board. I don't know, but if they do an arc like that, they need to name it StormClan or something. They gotta, like, put, like Arc 10 StormClan, because I think that if they're going to drag kids into this anyway at all, they need to make it clear that whatever the heck is happening is new and cool and not whatever the heck they did with Dawn of the Clans, which feels very like tepid.
Placid. Yeah.
That their promotion of it, I guess.
Yeah. If they did it, I'd like it.
I feel like their strategy, just like we see with Moonpaws, they're just going to like start to make like these really crazy like protagonists that have like a lot going on.
It's going to be so funny if the new book comes out and Moonpaw is just described as being a tortoiseshell and nothing else, and nobody ever mentions all these crazy things that they put on the Warrior Cats website.
Yeah,
that's my current prediction for the arc, is that it's going to be like Moonpaw, tortoiseshell she-cat.
Yeah.
Yep.
they're
probably going to mention it. They're not going to like talk about cat genetics. They're not going to say, "Oh, she's a chimera cat." They're just going to say, "Oh, that looks cool. She has half a face."
I think it'll be funny if she isn't born yet next book.
Pretty sure she is.
Wait, so hold on.
Oh, you
next book.
No, now I have to take that one seriously.
So right now we're on the next book chronologically. It is January.
It's the Elder's Quest. The Elder's Quest.
So wait, nothing's coming before that.
Wait, hold on.
It's January.
I forgot. They're doing it early, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we back to three? Are we back to 3 a year, or is there a long gap?
They're putting the graphic novel in the April time slot.
Yeah.
And then they're putting a Sasha recolor in July.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wait. So they're not having a new book in the spring for the main series at all?
No.
Oh my gosh, the graphic novel has sold so well that it has literally eclipsed the real series. That is amazing.
I also personally think it has to do with one other thing that we're going to discuss at the end, but I'll keep my mouth shut about that for right now.
Okay, well,
yeah.
I know what you're gonna say.
Well, yeah, you know.
I know the secret.
Yeah. It's not a secret, it's just a later bullet point.
Anyway, Icewing.
Yes,
Icewing was made the leader of
Riverclan.
Riverclan.
Yeah.
I feel like basically having Ivy Pool's Heart be a separate book and having like all the Icewing like talking about, oh, how I miss Riverclan, oh, how I should be there saving us from Splashtail, And having that just be in a completely separate book from the book where she actually becomes leader, and then have the book where she becomes leader, she's just like not there for almost the entire runtime. It's just like,
You think the kids even remember who she is?
I don't know. A lot of the kids in my all the respectable readers of Warrior Cats in my comments, there were a lot of them predicting and saying they wanted Icewind to be leader back a couple of books ago. I mean, well, like a book ago, like back in Wind.
Yeah. Though I do think there is a distinct difference between the opinions of active Warrior Cats fans who would watch our videos and the litanies of children who pick it up in their school library.
Yeah, by the kids, I mean like this demographic of hidden 9-year-olds.
Oh yeah.
But, like, okay, my problem isn't really that she doesn't appear in the arc, which is true, and my problem isn't really that she was set up last minute in a side super edition that was being co-written at the same time as this book. My problem is that earlier in the series, they presented her as a temporary leader of Riverclan, and nobody respected her. They presented her as being the temporary leader of Riverclan. They were like, this is a plant for Tigerstar, who was appointed by Tigerstar, and we don't like her. And that was the conclusion that the books made on Icewing, is that she would be a Tigerstar sympathizer, and that she was chosen because she would be a Tigerstar sympathizer. And that doesn't come to mind for anyone in the last moments. She doesn't have to prove that that's not true. She doesn't have to, like, confront that she was literally acting as a regent earlier on in the series. It's like they completely forgot about that, and that's what bothers me the most.
They don't even have time. They don't even have time to, because they have to, like, put her so close to the end of the book.
But they had time. They could have just said that Frostpaw was asleep for two weeks and then been done with it.
I mean, they didn't give themselves time. Of course, they could have written the book better.
So this is very much something where we know, we can tell, even though they haven't said it, that they absolutely did not know who Riverclan's leader was going to be when they started this arc. They probably didn't know who Riverclan's leader was going to be when they started book 3 or maybe even 4. And as a result, they put precisely 0 setup into the main series, and even used with Icewing some things that come across as anti-points for her being leader, because Riverclan actively thinks she would make a bad leader, and that she would be taking them back to the exact same place they started in. I think there are some ways they could have justified this. I think they could have pulled on Icewing's experiences with Duskfur and Mothwing in standing up to Splashtail. I think if we had actually shown more of that active rebellion instead of talking about it later, and seen Riverclan's changing opinion of her, or even had them mention her while she was gone, that could have helped a bit. But ultimately it is something that they were choosing at the last minute and were trying to cover up for quickly.
I think they also just chose her because she had the most marketable name.
Ice
Star of Riverclan?
Yeah.
I chose it first.
Okay, Sunny, I'm putting my hand on your shoulder, all right?
Uh-huh.
Do you think they saw my Icewing video?
Oh.
Sorry, I've been thinking about this, oh god. Oh,
we know they do sometimes see your videos. What date did you publish the Icewing video?
About 2 years ago.
There's a distinct possibility that they saw your Icewing video. That said,
yeah, it was a year and a half ago. I know. Okay, this is completely conspiratorial. I want to make content in a bubble where I don't think that it gets watched by anyone who works on the series. Do you know what I mean?
But if they saw your Icewing video, it feels like they would have put more work into making sure that she did come across as a good leader.
No, because hypothetically, if this is crazy. I don't actually believe this, but hypothetically, if they did see it, it would be at the time where the plots for books 4 and 5 were finalized, and the plots for 6 wasn't, and the plot for Ivy Pool's Heart wasn't.
And you would not have to change much about book 6 to make Icewing the leader, because.
But who would have it been before?
I don't think that they had any idea.
I don't think they had anyone in that slot yet.
I think that they wrote the leader ceremony. I think that they wrote the leader ceremony not even knowing who they were going to use. And I think that's based on the fact that everyone who appears is relevant to Frostpaw, not Icewing. And I've heard, the Frostpaw party, the Frost Star party, glares across the room at everyone. I think I've heard them say, well, it seems like they were planning on Frostpaw becoming a leader, but I really just don't think that was true. I don't think that they were ever going to make Frostpaw leader.
She was just so medicine cat written.
They were very, very, very setting her up to be a medicine cat. By the time we finished Wind, this was indisputable.
I think that if they had a plan for who was going to become leader, they dashed it halfway through. And I think that plan involved Hairlight. I think it was going to be Hairlight at first, and they
going to be two first stars.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that they were like, wait a second.
We already have one of those.
How could we do this, And they might have even been making a little joke about it by having Hairstar look at him and be like, maybe there'll be 2 Hairstars, So,
I think so. You might have noticed this in previous podcasts, but I didn't talk about who was going to be leader because in general, I'm not a person who theorizes a ton. I don't like taking shots in the dark at what I think will end up being the plot or the story or the names or such, unless they've given me significant clues to point me in a specific direction so that I can piece those clues together like a mystery and say, okay, so this is where you're trying to go. If they haven't done that, then I just don't make the guesses. And they did not put any clues in ever as to who was going to be the leader because they didn't have an idea of who was going to be the leader. They put in plenty of clues for Splashtail and Curlfeather and Berryheart, each of their machinations. Much as I don't like it, they even put clues in for Sunbeam and Nightheart becoming a couple in book 1. We all spotted it. We all talked about it. But they didn't put in clues for the finale of the arc for Riverclan's leader and situation because they didn't have one yet. They couldn't foreshadow something they didn't know.
Yeah.
I'm the opposite. My channel has so many poorly aged theories.
It's fun.
Within the last year. Yeah. It's
less poorly aged and more trying to work out where things could go based on the information that you have. And if they don't provide you with enough information, it doesn't make your theories bad.
I can't bully Akira because I put out that Moth Star video.
I stayed far away from this.
In fact, Okay, look.
Of course.
It made sense to me. It was like, because Mothwing has been the only person who's not only consistently been here, but also the only person who's been consistently reasonable without being literally disqualified like Icewing was.
She's been consistently respected, which is something no other cat in Riverclan has managed, Frostpaw included.
And here's the thing that bothers me the most, okay? Riverstar in, I think, book 3, comes up to Frostpaw and he says, Frostpaw, I need you to fix up Riverclan. Not just because it's broken, but because they forgot what Riverclan's about, which is being hippies. And Frostpaw's like, okay, I know now. I think I know who can be the leader of Riverclan. I'm not going to say it because the authors don't know, but I think I know who can be leader of Riverclan now because you've told me that it needs to be a hippie. And I thought to myself, well, now this means that whoever leads Riverclan needs to be someone who's open-minded enough to, 1, let in random outsiders like, Bee and Wasp, who were relevant earlier in the... Like, Bee and Wasp were relevant because they were newcomers where the intention was that the new Riverclan should let people like them in. Mm-hmm. Like, they made a big deal about that. And they never went anywhere with it, obviously, because... I said Bee and Wasp, I meant Waffle and Wasp, I'm sorry. But they made a big deal about that being the point, that being where we're going, is that we're going to have a more open Riverclan, a more respectful Riverclan, a more meditating Riverclan, a Riverclan who collects crystals and tells you what they can do. And I thought that the only reasonable explanation, or at least the only reasonable choice for Riverclan would have been Mothwing, a weird atheist outsider who would understand, letting people in, allowing people to appear. But instead of any of that being relevant, Frostpaw just, asks Icewing if she likes crystals on the way to the moon pool, instead of anything.
Icewing was also specifically doing the meditation stuff while on the journey in Ivypool's heart, despite no one explaining this to her, and Frostpaw previously saying, when she was visiting the cats in the park, that this was a new thing, that Riverclan did not do this. So I'm still trying to figure out how Icewing learned about this so that she could do it on the journey with Ivypool's group and teach the others.
Maybe Icewing is the last cat in her line that was taught how to meditate.
They didn't say that, but it would make her a better leader candidate if that were true. Yeah, that said, like, as...
Okay, Frostpaw finds out that Icewing is the last in a long line, even though she has a whole bunch of living children. She didn't teach any of them. She taught Grass Pelt, but he died.
Whisker, don't worry.
Those were the two that really were dedicated to it. Petalford didn't care.
But, like, as a leader from this point onwards, it's hard to say that I'm excited about Ice Star, because the reality of the situation is that the way they've been using the leaders, she will just be whoever the plot needs her to be at a moment's basis. Leaf Star's character has been pulled 1,000 times during this arc. Hair Star's been pulled in a million different directions already. Tiger Star's character has never been consistent. He's been the most consistent as a leader, but he's like the only one. So like I know Ice Star's current characterization will hold almost no bearing on how she acts in the future. But I'm kind of excited to have an addition of one new person in Riverclan who technically counts as being prominent, sort of. It's an improvement from what we started the arc with.
You don't like Misty Star?
No. No, I don't like Misty Star. For a variety of reasons, but...
Misty Star. You know, if Misty Star had won that Super Edition poll, book 3 would have been about Frostpaw reconnecting with her spirit.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm aware. I'm glad River Star won. I like this better. I don't like the Misty Star timeline.
The Misty Star timeline is so scary. It looms in the back of my head all the time. Like the Misty Star, the Misty Star could have been really even more important thing.
Mm-hmm.
But what would happen if Ivypool won?
Not Ivypool's heart. They would have written something completely different.
If Ivypool won, I have absolutely no idea what they would have done, because Ivypool's heart is something that really only could have worked in the space they created for it. And they didn't seem to have the ideas that they came to the conclusions on about. Like
none of the Wildcat and Stormclan stuff was.
Yeah, that wasn't really relevant then. I think that they used Ivypool as an excuse to get all these ideas out about Stormclan, about those cats and stuff, like all these things that they wanted to world build with. They put it on Ivypool's Super Edition. But had it happened earlier, I don't even know if Ivypool would be deputy.
I think she'd still be deputy. Well,
yeah.
I think she'd be chosen over anyone else. Unless we're talking about a
maybe
timeline
she
where
would still be like chosen afterwards, but it wouldn't be relevant to the book.
Yeah, like if Ivypool isn't deputy, that would just mean that Bramblestar is still leader. In my I'm thinking in the possibilities they could have chosen. I don't think they would have went with someone else.
On some level, Ivypool in this arc specifically was the only character that could have become the deputy of ThunderClan. But I think that had she had a Super Edition, they wouldn't have set her up. Do you know what I mean? That's my difference, really, is that
there wouldn't be an arc about it, at the very least.
I'm upset that Riverstar's Home was kind of just a weird recap book for 17 chapters. That really bothers me because I thought there was a lot more they could do with it. But at the same time, I kind of see it as a sacrificial lamb for Ivypool's heart being better.
Yeah. And, even in that book, after the 17 chapters, they ran out of recap that was possible for Riverstar, which was the entire point of us making that choice. So they had to force in new ideas about
What was the point of me making that choice, for sure?
Well, what was the point of me making that choice as well? But
That's what happened after chapter 17 of Riverstar's Home, to be fair. Like, I enjoyed the forwards that they took. I just
didn't enjoy his mate.
But
like,
I think there's a lot of fighting about Finch Song, actually.
Oh, okay. I guess I should say then, the person I like is not the person I dislike in that is not his mate, but the writers for making his mate make the choices she did at the end.
It kind of felt like she was trying to guilt trip him to stay, didn't it? Like, before she got on that raft.
I've gone back and forth about that. I legitimately cannot make a definitive statement on that right at this moment.
But it's another situation where the she-cat leaves for the Tom, just like all these other situations, which is very weird.
That's the part that unequivocally I just don't like.
Finleap, the only ray of sun in this entire world. I'm sure you'll never do anything wrong.
Did you just say Finleap?
I said, Finleap, the entire ray of light in this entire world. I'm sure you can do nothing wrong.
Right, yes, okay, yes, cool. Yes, gotcha.
Yeah, that got a little off track, I'm sorry.
Anyway, Owl Nose.
All right.
Icewing made Owl Nose her deputy.
Okay, so neither Theory and Owl Nose. I think it's like same thing as Ice Star, where they did not plan this. They saw people reacting to the Owl Nose in book 2 and thought people thinking that Owl Nose is funny, and they're just like, oh, hey, let's just make him deputy. That'd be funny. Because
the reason he was funny though was because he was
such
a bad leader.
The whole point was that he was the least qualified cat. They make a point in that book that it's breaking the code to name him because he doesn't never had an apprentice, and they like point that out in the book.
Which I continuously dislike, but we'd be lying to ourselves if we said that Ice Star was the first one to flagrantly break that rule. People have been naming random characters without any apprentices deputies since Arc 2.
I think...
But in Arc 2, they at least had to like acknowledge that.
Yeah.
And then they gave him Berry Paw. Here they just don't even like think about it. They're just like, oh yeah, I don't know.
I think that a deputy needing an apprentice is a really good plot point. Unfortunately, it's a plot point that the authors very frequently cannot remember for the life of them for some reason. Like, it's something that's never on their heads. But, like, using that politically, if or not that they've had an apprentice, is fun. So the idea that they just never touch it is so boring to me. Mm-hmm. But, like, okay, Let's say I'm Ice Star and I'm gonna pick my deputy for Riverclan or whatever. I don't think I would even know which of these horrible creatures had an apprentice or not at this point. I'd be like, oh geez, like so many of them were working with so many of them were working with Splashtail. So many of them were saying this or doing that or snickering when someone gets named Gray Slime.
Gray Slime and Mist Sludge.
I guess I can't really blame anyone for like treating these characters as if they're real people, obviously, which I shouldn't be doing, but like I don't really blame this particular rule breaking because Owl Nose is like one cat who actually tried to prevent Splashtail from killing children.
By killing Berryheart.
Yeah, I mean, but like Berryheart was a ShadowClan cat. Who cares?
Well, he was inched away from killing Sunbeam.
Yeah, and Sunbeam is a ThunderClan cat. Who cares?
Okay, so like this was the whole point. This is the whole point of choosing Icewing.
Hollow's order's really good. Okay, he is a perfect deputy.
This is honestly, it sort of reminds me of One Star naming Hairlight as his deputy in the you turned and fought for us right at the end, so we're going to make you deputy as a show of forgiveness is my personal justification for why Icewing might have done this. But like
so recency bias.
Yeah, there are other cats you could have chosen who like just to be clear, everyone in Riverclan who is not Duskfur, Icewing, or Mothwing did join with Splashtail to some degree. And it would be totally valid to immediately forgive most of them as a sign of camaraderie. But specifically forgiving and promoting the characters who helped Splashtail the most and actively killed people because they believed in him and his ideology is not a super smart choice if the thing you're trying to do is move away from his ideology.
I think the thing about Owlnose is that, like, it's not just that he supported Splashtail, it's that he supports whoever, like, is convenient for him. He does flip-flops. He doesn't, like, he never, like, supported Splash. He supported Splashtail. He, like, was, like, suddenly started supporting Splashtail the moment that Splashtail was more powerful, but then the moment Splashtail wasn't more powerful, he immediately flipped on Splashtail.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels like he wouldn't...
Well, so he actually supported Splashtail since the beginning, though. He was the very first person to publicly support Splashtail. When he became leader, he immediately made Splashtail his deputy. He said, wow, this is a cool guy. He's the one who should be leader. He has some great ideas and he's been doing great on patrols. Let's make him leader.
That's fine and dandy, but, like, at the same time, if he was already, like, pre-loyal to Splashtail, like, if he was in Splashtail's little silly gang, he wouldn't have taken, like, any of the leadership responsibility. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
I don't think he was actually... I don't think he was in
Splashtail
Splashtail's gang. I don't think he was Splashtail's follower in the way that Fognose or Podlight were, but he was someone who actively said, I see what Splashtail is doing, I see how strong and forceful he is, and I see the ideals he's trying to communicate, and I agree with all of that.
Were Fognose and Podlight the only two cats that they chased off?
Wait, no, they didn't chase off. They did not chase off Podlight.
He just got beat up by Hawkwing,
and then they just ignored
okay.
him. They fully just ignored him for the rest of the book. No, it was Fognose and I want to say it's Breezeheart. They chased off Fognose and Breezeheart, but not Brackenpelt or Podlight, and obviously not Owlnose either.
Breezeheart.
And I find it weird that, like, her biggest reason to make him leader is because he didn't want to be leader, and that makes him, like, more humble than everyone else, and that's, like, somehow a leadership quality.
I mean, it's not like everyone else in the clan was vying to be leader. They actively avoided making a leader for weeks.
Yeah. It's like, it doesn't feel very special.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't feel, because... And, like, what if he still doesn't want to be leader? He didn't check with him first.
I don't know how Owlnose is going to be as a deputy. I think they're going to do the thing that they did with Hawkwing, where now that he's had his funny time in the sun, they just fully ignore every ounce of his personality and treat him like a stock masculine Tom deputy for the rest of time.
I'm pretty sure, like, Riverclan as a whole is just going to, like, kind of fade out because they don't have a POV next arc. Mm-hmm. And they're stuck back to being on the opposite side of the river, the lake as everyone else.
You know what I find amusing is that they can keep Hairstar's personality really consistent by making him irresponsible, flighty, and inconsistent, because that's just how they want to write characters anyway.
Yeah. For more disappointment, hey, want to talk about Sunbeam and Nightheart's kits?
They decided they didn't really want to have any right away, but then they had some right away, which is really great.
Yeah.
I hope they have lots of kit scenes.
I wanted them to break up. But
we need to have, I guess.
we knew that wasn't happening because they released an entire website article about how they thought of that and then said no, they need to be together. So yeah, they were going to have kits.
I think maybe they want Moonpaw to have friends.
I guess. But then, like, you could have made Moonpaw one of their kids.
I think they're trying to break up the nepotism a little bit.
I'm not sure if nepotism or incest is really worse here.
Okay, but they don't know that. They don't know that they did that. They have no idea.
You should definitely look at your own family tree that you so publicly display and add to. If you don't care about the family tree, please stop adding to it. Please, please, please. There's
still time. They could fix this. They know about it. They probably got a bunch of emails to the Warrior Cats website like, hey, these two cats are very related.
Super duper related. Please stop.
They're just, it's too, the book's coming out so soon. And it was already done written. When they announced it, it was basically already done written.
But was it sent to publisher?
I don't know.
We'll have to see in January. So the Sunbeam Nightheart kit thing is not hitting me as hard as it could, because I was already prepped and ready for them to immediately make Sunheart again. Oh my gosh, to immediately make Sunbeam a tepid, lovely queen like most of them. But I really hoped they would wait until the next arc, since they had an entire conversation about not doing it right then.
Babies.
What book was that in?
I want to say Wind? No.
It could have been Wind.
It might have been Wind.
Because I think before Wind, they weren't, like, hanging out.
Let's see.
Okay, it's the scene where Breezepelt looks at them and says, "Oh my god, are you in love? Ew." And then his daughter is like, watching the whole thing go down. I say that. His daughter didn't say anything. She was just there while he said families, am I right?
Perfect. Yes. Okay, so Wind, Chapter 3. Nightheart brushed his tail along Sunbeam's flank. I suppose we should think about what we want for our future. How do you feel about kits? Sunbeam felt warmth spread all over her body, as if she had stepped onto a patch of sunlight. "Oh, I want them," she exclaimed. "I know my mother can be difficult, but I was happy when I was a kit, and I want to raise kits with you, Nightheart." "You will have the most beautiful kits," Nightheart purred. "Our litter would have the best of both..." Our litter would have the best of both of us, Sunbeam responded. "Stealthy little ShadowClan furballs with the courage of ThunderClan." But not quite yet. She was pleased when Nightheart nodded in agreement. "It would be nice to wait a few seasons to enjoy spending time together," he mewed, "without anything to distract us. We've never been able to just be together without some threat or problem. Or without one of us trying to prove themselves to the other's clan," Sunbeam added. "That sounds perfect to me," Nightheart says, "as long as we raise kits together eventually." And that was it. That was all they said on the matter. It was 1 book ago. Gosh, it was 1 book ago.
I mean, okay, maybe if we didn't know it had only been a couple months, at best.
They had about a 2-moon time skip, from what I could calculate.
But, like, the characters having kittens doesn't really bother me. It's characters getting together to begin with that bothers me.
Yeah, no, this
if they have kittens, it means I can have some scenes with kittens in them, which is my entire motivation behind all of the sod.
This hits me much, much less than Sunbeam and Nightheart getting together in the first place. I'm just still not happy about it. That said, the day Warriors manages to write a romance that I don't have any reservations about and fully do like, I'll jump for joy, because it hasn't happened yet.
Okay, so portrayal of non-Riverclan clans in this book.
Literally anyone besides Riverclan.
There was a cute kitten scene in ShadowClan.
There was.
There was also a cute kitten scene that had SkyClan kittens in ThunderClan.
That's true. Yarrowleaf said something nice about Berryheart. Glad they remembered that for 2 seconds.
Okay, but it was so cute. It was so cute, Sunny. It was so cute when the kitten interrupts Squirrelstar, and Squirrelstar just immediately pauses what she's doing to answer the kitten and then goes back to it.
She's been a mom. She knows what it's like to be a mom.
She's not annoyed or anything. She's just like, oh, this, that. And the kitten's like, yeah.
Yeah, because it's a kitten.
I love you, Squirrelstar. I love you, kitten scenes. Yeah, that's my full thought. Sorry. Now I'm just thinking about kittens. I don't really care if the other clans don't get a lot of attention. It doesn't matter to me.
Because Sunbeam and Nightheart weren't spending most of their time in Riverclan, I was hoping that at least their own clans would get itty bits of the character back that they had in the first few books. And they didn't. Anyway, overall thoughts time. Overall cast of the art. What are your opinions?
My opinion, Sunny?
Your opinions. Also,
okay,
Akira's opinions. My opinions.
As far as the arc goes, I think that Sunbeam started really strong and then diminished. Basically, every time that Nightheart was on screen with her, Sunbeam became weak. except for the last book where Sunbeam was basically weak the whole way through.
Mm-hmm.
And then Frostpaw was consistently strong the whole time. And I think that Nightheart is a terrible person. There's my opinions.
Yep.
I don't know. Everyone around Nightheart exists for Nightheart's confidence, exists for Nightheart's character development, exists for Nightheart's feelings and feeling better. And it's all about Nightheart. And while he does occasionally have thoughts about Frostpaw and how Frostpaw is doing, his thoughts about his wife are usually like, oh, I hope that she didn't grow to hate me in my time away. Like, it's always just about him again. It's like he doesn't look outside himself at all. It's just always him. So I can't care about him because it feels like he didn't experience character development. He just experienced self-confidence, when he didn't really need self-confidence so much as manners.
That is fair.
So
Akira?
that's my mean opinions.
I feel like he's just like really all over the place throughout the arc. I wish Light Leap was still important and still did stuff.
Yeah.
I wish Gull Swoop was still important.
We saw Gull Swoop.
We saw Gull Swoop, but she wasn't quite as Gull Swoop as she used to be.
Yeah, I still think like the Riverclan, evil Riverclan, / not evil. We swear we're trying to protect the kids. We're like, it's really inconsistent. And as far as the main POVs, it's like they had their like good moments and then they had their like whatever moments.
So I genuinely believe that this is the best I have felt about a cast in Warriors for years, and that remains true even though we still have a lot of the Warriors problems where as soon as a character loses any prominence or as soon as they aren't useful for one book, they lose a lot of their characterization or they stop existing as a character at all. That's still a problem, we'll address it later, but I now have feelings about Light Leap and Gull Swoop and Sparkpelt and Finchlight and Duskfur and Owlnose, and I like that. I care about it. As far as the main characters go, Frostpaw is consistently good. I like her all the way through, and she's just a well-written character. Nice job on her. Sunbeam remains my favorite despite everything, because I really, 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 really liked her at the beginning. And this is me, so I imagine where her story would have gone based on what I thought to be the obvious direction for her to go. And that is still a part of her to me, even though none of it is written in any book. Every time she gets closer to Nightheart, she loses some of her soul, and I don't like that. But I consistently don't like Warriors romance, so maybe they should just stop with that. And then Nightheart is a character I only ever like when he's with Frostpaw. He is one of the rare instances in this series, especially recently, where we have a non-romantic friendship that exists for more than one book. And I genuinely do appreciate that about him. And I like when he's with Frostpaw. Every other interaction he has with anyone in the clans, though, is often painful to different degrees. And this goes through Sunbeam and Sparkpelt and Finchlight and Bramblestar and Squirrelstar, who get the worst of it. But also a bunch of other minor characters who also get delightfully painful relationships with him. Generally, he's just a character that leans a little too hard on the worst Warriors tropes of endlessly bullied warrior cats because we just shifted everyone in the clans to be dislikable for the sake of making you sympathize, and the worst tropes about warriors men being heroic and pitiable and getting the girl by default. And I wish we could throw those tropes out, but I'm still not putting aside that this is the best I have felt about a cast in years, and that matters to me. That said, would we like to discuss the plot side to this arc?
Yes. This plot was a plot. It does feel like, as we've discussed throughout the episode, throughout the recording, is that they really were making it up as they went, and they were changing things based on like which super editions they did. They like changed it for the Riverstar super edition. They changed it by adding the quest. They changed it for the Ivy Pool Super Edition when they had the Frostpaw, Coma, and Ice Star being leader. And if I like went back and read, the first 2 books, and then I feel like I wouldn't be like, oh, it all makes sense now. Like, oh, I can see they're planning it from the beginning. I don't think that would happen. And I think what bothers me is that I think the Riverclan situation just didn't fully develop the way that makes sense. It didn't really, for them to act the way they did and to listen to Splashtail the way they did. But
Riverclan's just a cascade of not making sense, like, at all.
Nice. You can go on with your opinions.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I was done. I was about done.
Okay. So Riverclan starts out, right? We got Riverclan, and their leader dies and their deputy dies. And then they look for their deputy, they don't find him, they find out he's dead. And then they're like, we gotta get Frostpaw to talk to Starclan to find out who leader's gonna be, right? Mm-hmm. This is the first thing that doesn't make sense because clans have gotten through this before without consulting Starclan multiple times. Even in situations where they're supposed to consult Starclan, there have been medicine cats who just go, okay, this guy's leader now, and that worked, Yeah. So I think the Red Scar situation comes to mind.
Oh yeah.
And so we have precedent for this not being a problem. Secondarily, the fact that they just kind of fell into disarray, even though they had like multiple acting leaders, it was really just because the cats in Riverclan didn't have any respect for whoever was made leader, be that Icewing, be that Mothwing, be that Duskfur, be that anyone who Owlnose. And Owlnose actually in the most recent book makes a good point. He says, hey, if I was leader, these people, if I just, like, got my 9 lives, this wouldn't have happened. And he's probably right. Like, even though he sucks and he's terrible, he's the only thing that was stopping these cats from organizing, from being normal, was just not having a leader, and that was it. It didn't really matter the quality of leader. And that's proven further by the fact that when Splashtail assumes power, he's just like, well, we gotta stop feeding the elders, we gotta start abusing the kits, we gotta just start fighting everybody and taking over all the clans. Like, he just immediately goes into, like, murder mode for... Like, even though his clan needs to be repaired, his clan needs to be fixed, he's just like, okay, we gotta do all these terrible things for no reason. And had someone just been a little bit incompetent, it would have been a better situation for Riverclan by far than whatever the heck Splashtail was doing. So, like, none of it makes sense. It's all just random things happening for no reason, and then the arc ends.
Yeah.
So to add on to it, Frostpaw, like, just like the inconsistency with how she received messages, like, and when, like, I guess, like, they eventually, like, decided that the meditation is what, like, made her into a medicine cat, but it just, like,
she unlocked
like,
her chakras.
Yeah. But so, like, it feels weird because they can't keep consistent whether it's medicine cat is like a learned ability or like an innate ability, because with Shadow Sight they say, oh, he never is going to have it because he didn't have it in him. But Frostpaw, they also say she didn't have it in her, but then, she gets it.
Yeah. I can't blame them too much for the Starclan connection thing specifically, because it's never been consistent. It's never been clear what the heck it is and how it works. So I fully expect them to change up in every arc what the heck it means to have a Starclan connection and how you get it and how you maintain it.
It feels kind of like they were trying to put Frostpaw through some sort of mental ritual that would allow her to talk to Starclan, which is kind of weird. Like I don't think that was the intention at all. It's just the only thing that makes any sort of sense. But, like, then why does she have to go to the park? Is it just because that's the only place in the entire world that's safe right now, and every other place that she could be hiding out to meditate is being plagued by their own natural disasters? I don't know. It's random. It's random. She doesn't, like, they made it canon probably about 2 arcs ago, I would say, in A Vision of Shadows. They made it canon that you need a connection to Starclan to receive visions and to be a good medicine cat. Mm-hmm. They established this with Alderpaw. They said, Alderpaw, has an incredibly strong spiritual connection, and therefore he needs to go into the medicine den right away. And to some extent, they kind of did this with Jayfeather, but it was more so just that Jayfeather was like Jayfeather with superpowers, you know, so it was different. But like with Alderpaw, they were like, okay, Alderpaw has a spiritual connection, and we need to put him in the medicine den right away. And the same thing kind of happened to Shadowsight. They were like, oh, Shadowsight has a strong spiritual connection that needs to become the medicine cat of ShadowClan, even though we already made some random kid medicine cat of ShadowClan. But I guess Puddlekit had a good enough connection because Puddlekit literally got trained in dreams by my medicine cats. So just by chance, Puddlekit was like a good conduit. But I don't know. It's definitely a situation where it's not made up on the spot that you need a StarClan connection to talk to StarClan, but it is made up on the spot that you need someone with a StarClan connection to choose the new leader.
I think it's complicated for me because it's an incredibly messy plot all the way through. The more you look at any of these ideas, the more inconsistencies you find, the more outright contradictions you find, or the more things just do not make sense if you think about the characters and who they're supposed to be in the world and what it's supposed to be. But the ideas they're shooting for, and some of the scenes that resulted from it, I like the way it pushed the characters. I like the 3 villain dynamics. I like the way that it pushed our characters to actually meet and know each other a little bit more than we have in the last few arcs, at least. And it's very much like Omen of the Stars for me, where it gives me all of the building blocks, and it seems so obvious from my own perspective of how you would fit these together into a very compelling story. And because none of that is actually in there, it comes across as super interesting to me. Because now there's more for us to talk about, there's more for us to dig into. Every little flaw is something that you can fix and make better and expand upon and add to. So it's a bad arc, it's a messy arc, and that's why it's perfect and I love it.
So,
if
we were to compare it to Light in the Mist, I think Akira, not A Light in the Mist, if we were to compare it to the last arc, which was called something else, The Broken Code.
Yeah.
I think Akira had strong feelings about this early on, yeah?
Yeah. I was just a big A Light in the Mist hater. So for that reason, I genuinely thought this one was better.
I was middling on The Broken Code as an arc. I didn't really like its back half, but I thought A Light in the Mist was better than the 2 books that preceded it. In that it had a lot of action, it had a lot of high stakes, and it took a lot of risks. But very much like this book, it had a lot of spectacle, a little bit of emotional resonance. This book had more. It spread out over a longer period, I should say. And both of them resulted in very few actual deaths or casualties, and instead tried to hype up the ones that they did include. The last one ended in Bristlefrost dreaming of her kits instead of actually having them. So
Sunbeam wasn't even involved in this conversation. Sunbeam doesn't know she's pregnant. Only Nightheart knows because he looked it up on the Warrior Cats wiki. I think that the characters were definitely replications to some extent. I think that they saw what they did with Root Spring and Bristlefrost and they felt bad about it, so they wanted to do Root Spring and Bristlefrost again, but this time they're not sad. I think that that's almost 1-to-1 with whatever they were thinking because it's the same dynamic, it's the same weird age gap, it's the same kind of whimpering little desperate little boy with some competent adult woman.
It's the same case where the competent woman is choosing to love this little boy now that she's been rejected from the competent man that she had actually set herself up with.
I hope that when Moonpaw inevitably has a romance arc, that it's with somebody competent, and she's not 35 years old and there's some apprentice.
I'm still holding out for the vain hope that Moonpaw will not have a romance arc. I know, pipe dreams, but...
you guys want to talk about Kate leaving?
Let's do it. So recently, the day before the book came out,
Yes, or the same day.
Or the same day. It was announced that Star was going to be Kate Cary's last book. For anyone who may have managed to miss it at this point, Kate Cary has been one of the 2 primary ghostwriters for Warriors since literally the first book, Into the Wild. And her leaving now is definitely going to change some things, I'm guessing. I suspect at the very least that this is part of why we have the schedule that we do in this upcoming year.
I think on some level that probably has to do with the fact that whoever that if the graphic novel is selling really well, that they want to, push that into more of its own thing. But Kate leaving, I actually don't think that, like, in a tangible way inside the books, I don't think that's going to have much of a writing difference. I appreciate Kate, and I think that Kate has always done a very, very good job. But at the same time, I think a bulk of what makes Warrior Cats is coming from the team, like the whole big team of people who work on Warrior Cats or don't work on Warrior Cats. And I think that that's how it's been since the beginning of time, is that there's a huge team behind Warrior Cats of not just writers or people who plot them out. Like, Vicky plotted out the first 4 books, but we don't know how many other editors had input, how many other people from Working Partners had input, how many people have had, like, little hands in the Warrior Cats pie and been telling them what to do or what to say. And being a ghostwriter, Kate Cary does not have a lot of control over things that are actually tangible in the books. And so I don't really see this being a huge change for Warrior Cats, aside from just, missing Kate. Yeah. But I think that on some level, as a community, we've been missing Kate for a little while now as she stepped away from things like BlogClan.
The big thing for me is just having gone back and forth through a lot of her and Cherith's books. There is a pretty consistent trend that she was someone who used more of the important to me mini character moments that don't necessarily carry over anywhere else, but add a little bit of flavor to individual characters in the moment in ways that make me happy and are the sort of things that cause people to really, really like certain background characters. And I know that Cherith can do this. I know that she has done this. But she more consistently leans into the plot writing rather than spending excess time on random character interactions.
I'm not sure if, leaning into dialogue or not leaning into dialogue is more so something that's unique to Kate or more so something that's unique to Cherith. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think it could be just as likely that we bring in someone else who makes more scenes of dialogue than Kate does. We just don't know. We don't know what's up. We don't know what's going to be up. But I wish Kate the best. I think,
absolutely.
I want these people who have been ghostwriters for such a long time for this series to be able to do what they want to do and write what they want to write. And I hope desperately that what Kate is doing is writing and publishing books that Kate cares about.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I feel like being a ghostwriter for Warrior Cats must be like purgatory adjacent.
Yeah. My opinion on this is that I think if this is like, I can't like pretend that I know what the reasoning behind the decision was, but if it is that Kate wanted to retire, then that's great. That's wonderful that she can, do whatever she wants, whether that, is whatever that is. If it was her decision. It
does sound like from the announcement that she was planning to go into her own writing from here, which does make me happy. I hope she is able to do that. I hope she enjoys what she writes.
I hope she writes lots of vampire romance.
Yeah, and I also agree that I don't think Warrior Cats is going to like change significantly.
No.
Significantly, I think it's like, because when I read the novellas that were by Clarissa Hutton, I think. Who was the novella writer?
Yeah, Clarissa wrote the novellas.
The Clarissa novellas, I didn't like feel like something was off.
Yeah.
I still felt like Warrior Cats, so I think the same thing will apply to if they bring in someone else.
Warriors has been ship of Theseusing itself for a while now, and considering how up in age Cherith is getting as well, I wouldn't be surprised if we're soon left in a place where none of the original ghostwriters are there.
I mean, Cherith is older than Kate, isn't she?
Exactly, yeah.
Either way, I've seen some speculation as to who the new Eren who replaces Kate is going to be. Some people have speculated it's going to be Rosie Best from the Bamboo Kingdom and Survivors. Some people have said it's going to be Clarissa, and I don't think that we can know yet.
No.
But I think that we already know that. We already know that Rosie Best is involved in the Warrior Cats pipeline already. Or at least has access to like what the scripts are and what's going on there and things like that. So like it's like these people are all very interconnected. They like the people in Working Partners. There isn't like one Eren Hunter, and I don't think that there might not have ever been one Eren Hunter to begin with. It's always been such a team-based product that whoever is coming on to replace Kate is going to be someone who's intimately familiar with the series. Even if they're like, I'm sure, like even if they're not a ghostwriter, you know, because I really don't know what exactly goes on in there. It's an enigma. It's something that I'm sure I could find out if I tried. But it could be one of the editors taking on the role of writer, or it could just be another person who's specifically hired as a ghostwriter. We don't know. Either way, I hope Kate. I wish Kate the best for sure. Either way, thank you. Thank you for having us. I'm sorry for making this last so long.
All right. Thank you both for coming. I deeply enjoyed this. And we will check back in when the next arc comes out with all the Moonpaw stuff and Chasing Skies.
It's not a long time.
No, it is not.
Like right around the corner.
Yeah.
I'm glad
It's
for
like
that.
the shortest gap ever.
Oh, maybe not, though. The first arc came out 3 times a year.
In my history as a Warrior Cats fan.
It felt like almost like we're going back to basics here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we will check back in about 2 months. And until then, I will say, see you both. Enjoy your time on your own channels. If you've managed to not subscribe to either of these two, go do it. They have delightful content.
Just Akira.
And I will say, see you!
Goodbye.
Bye.